to bitch fest on this, but
I'm trying to get it to update because you know I've got a lag behind you.
Well, what I might want to try to do is see if if I can screen share to Discord, then you can watch it in the same time, and that way you're not having to listen to talk over audio, because the stream is going to have talk over audio. So what should
I just mute? Should I just mute Twitch then?
No, hold on. Yeah, mute Twitch, and I have too many monitors. Krantz will say there's no such thing as too many monitors, but I have too many monitors. No, there we go. Screen 1. We want that one.
Settings.
Yeah, we're gonna keep. Yeah, we just do go live. Hold on. Okay, so you should be able to see that. What, are you on your phone or on a laptop?
I'm on my phone.
Can you see the live the screen share?
Yeah, I can see the screen share.
Okay.
And I'm trying to mute Twitch right now. Trying to figure out how to do it.
On the phone, there should be a little speaker, and you should just be able to hit that, and it should mute it.
Animated emotes, background audio.
Yay, we has a new follower. Hello, new follower.
We do.
Yeah, I do. We're gonna do. Oh, I need to get my camera working too.
So do I just put it on chat only?
You can put it on chat only.
Let's see. I still can't figure this out. Come on, Steph. You can do this. Give me just a second here, honey. I'm trying to figure out how to do this audio.
I'm dark.
I'm going to do chat only and see what that does. Apply. Nope. It won't let me see the screen if I do chat only. Okay.
Well, no, you don't need to see the Twitch screen. You just need to see the Discord screen, because I'm gonna broadcast it on Discord.
Okay. Is there a way to mute?
There is a way to mute Twitch.
Okay, so I'm back in.
Well, technically, you don't even need to be on Twitch at all if you're going to be watching it in Discord, because it's just
okay.
Yeah, so you don't need to be.
All right, then I'm just going to close Twitch then.
All right, then I just need to
there we go. Okay, so I'm in the stream in Discord right now.
Yeah. All right. And I just need to find the stupid thing. It's gonna make me angry. See, that's the problem. This is just gonna make me mad. But we're just gonna go ahead and pause it as it goes. Oh, she's so stupid.
Oh, I know. I mean, that whole thing was just a pure cringe fest. I just wanted to. I was so angry. Are you there?
I'm here. Oh, it's okay, Kranitz. Alright. Alright, so can you, let's click. Okay, I have this up. So we're gonna actually walk through. I don't want you to save resources. Stop trying to save resources. Alright, we'll see. Let me know if you can hear it.
Completely honest, I don't think there's any definition of a good breeder.
Let me close.
She starts. There's not any definition of a good breeder. Like, really?
Really?
Yeah.
Let me see. I'm not getting any volume.
Well, I don't have anything playing right now. So let me.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, like, wait a minute. Yeah, she starts it out with that girl saying, I don't think there's any definition of a good breeder. And I'm like, well, honey, that's because you weren't one. You were a backyard breeder. And if that's the only experience that you have, then, yeah, of course you're going to think that.
Well, they didn't have any goal. If that's because basically what they did is they had 0 goal. All right, hold on a second. I'm just gonna go ahead and put audio on here so see if you can hear audio. You get any audio?
Is it playing?
Yeah.
I don't see it playing on the Discord.
Well, I didn't. The video's not playing. I just have audio.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, but you can't hear that. So I'm trying to make sure, because there's no. If we're gonna stream it, okay, input device. Output device. I need it to listen to. I don't want this to loop on you.
Yeah, those people had absolutely no goal. They got 2 lion heads and stuck them together, and whoops, they got bunnies, and they're like, okay, we can make a couple of bucks.
Well, if that or you just you want to bring up? Well, you're on the phone. All right. Well, you've watched it. Do you want me to just kind of run play by play, and we'll just do commentary?
Yeah, what we can do is just hit play, and then we'll stop at certain points, and then we'll discuss.
Okay.
It's a terrible thing to do to force these rabbits to have kids.
Oh, pause just a second. Actually, I could hear it through the Twitch, so let me pull up Twitch real quick.
Okay, there will be
I can hear the...
Okay.
Yeah, there's going to be some lag going through Twitch.
Well, there'll be lag, and the other issue is that you will get voice over, so you'll probably have to mute
feedback.
it. Yeah, you will get feedback. Is there closed captions? Oh, look, there's closed captions, but they're auto-generated, but that should be good enough. So can you read them?
That's fine.
We'll do that.
Yeah, I can read that.
I love that. These rabbits didn't have kids. No kids for bunnies.
We'll never do it again because there's enough rabbits and bunnies in this world, and I just don't agree on it anymore.
You wanted to buy one?
And they repeatedly, like that right there, that's freaking entrapment. They're trying to paint that breeder in a certain light and make that person look like they're bad when they aren't actually bad. I mean, that is perfect example of what animal rights activists do to try to cherry pick something or show something in a certain light when it's not true. It takes it completely out of context.
Yeah.
I wanna
Well, this person catches on so fast.
Which one's that?
It's like, don't you have a YouTube channel? Well, this is another thing. The angle that she has this camera at, because I thought it was the other way, and we just looked at that rabbit's head. Right, that's a big cage that bunny is actually in.
That is a huge cage.
That's actually a huge, because that's sideways. Because if you look, because the rabbit,
yeah, that is a,
yeah, she has the phone sideways, and so that's okay. That's a fence behind her. That's probably 7 or 8 feet tall. That's like a 4-foot multi-level cage.
yeah, that is I think that's a 36 by.
Yeah, I have a big dog crate like that.
Yeah, a 36 by 28.
Yeah,
that's a 36 by 28 cage.
and granted, they're sectioned off, but if those are grow outs, and they brought them in for, they're only the grow out cages, they don't stay very long in there. Rabbits.
Cuddly, fluffy,
Cute.
multi.
Cuddly.
Well, okay. This, by the way, my understanding is that's probably hers. But I could have. Someone was saying that they took some of this footage from ARBA.
They did. Okay, so there's a couple of the Angora shots that were taken from Mrs. Cho, one of the top Angora breeders. They stole footage from her.
I hope she sues.
Her, taking care of her Angora rabbits.
Mm-hmm.
This woman has dedicated her life to the top level of care of her Angoras. You cannot even touch one of her rabbits for less than $1,000.
And I highly doubt she gave
And-
permission for her footage to be used in this.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
So, but again, and this again, what we are doing is commentary, which falls under fair use, because we are pausing and commenting. So this does fall under fair use.
We're
So this
commenting
you're allowed
on
to.
This is a little,
This is legal. Stealing this and then rebroadcasting it, saying this is my footage, is not. That's what the difference is here.
They've been domesticated for hundreds of years.
Yes, they have been domesticated for hundreds of years.
for hundreds of years. Why is that bad?
It's not.
What exactly do we know?
And who are these kids? I mean, dude.
Furry creatures. Why are there so many?
And
of them? One of the most popular pets in the world, and yet there still seems to be so much misinformation about them. Rabbits and their
Pause.
Yeah.
Yes, there is misinformation about them, and a large majority of it comes from House Rabbit Society, from PETA, and from Humane Society of the United States, all of which are animal rights organizations with an agenda to remove rabbits from society. And they don't want you to have pets. They don't want you to have a domesticated rabbit. They think that there should be no such thing as a domesticated rabbit.
Are very much viewed as disposable. And what do we do with something disposable? Well, we replace it, of course, because disposability poses replaceability. You see, this is where the overpopulation of rabbits kicks in.
I don't tend to think they're overpopulated because they're edible. So
they aren't overpopulated. They are edible, and that's just it. People are so far removed from they want them all to be pets instead of being what they are meant to be. They are meant to be a livestock commercial animal.
Yeah.
They are the third most abandoned animal at the shelter.
You see, now if they're going to this, and these are both meat rabbits, both of these. Now, and which is always interesting because almost all the ones that you're seeing in the shelter are meat. I don't see a lot of Netherland dwarfs. You get some little fuzzy ones and some loppy ones because there's just so many of them. But most of the time, like even in our shelters around here, they're large Dutches, or they're New Zealand mixes. Like they're large breed rabbits. Because someone bought.
They get dumped.
Yeah.
Or they're in a hoarder situation.
Yeah, and or it's because people don't, explain. Because like I said, when I'm selling my animals, we go through this whole process, and the process is basically, okay. I breed this breed. I breed commercials type. Now, I need you to understand. Right now, it's 5 pounds. It is going to get this big. You show mom and dad. That's a 12-pound buck. That's a 10.5-pound doe. You need to understand. You are not buying this. You're buying this, number one. And then you have to go through the whole, walk through with care. I had one the other day who was looking for just a pet. And I'm like, okay, well, and we started doing the walkthrough. She's, I've been researching it online. And I'm like, quiz time! What are you feeding it? And she's like, it's all hay and fresh veg. And I'm like, no. And we had this whole huge conversation. Because she's like, well, the internet said. And I'm like, the internet, as I think Kranitz actually put it last night, it's like, yeah, well, the internet also says that the Queen of England's a lizard person. So, like, the internet says lots of things.
That's a huge. That's the information has been so tainted online, because House Rabbit Society got their claws in so many different places. They have so many people on their payroll, and what they did was when in the late '90s, early 2000s. There was a whole crop of veterinarians that were beginning to graduate school because I had applied into the vet school as because there was a huge crop of them coming out, and so there was spaces opening for the veterinary programs at the various best veterinary colleges, and so I was applying as that crop was leaving. Well, what they do is they send their education people to the vet colleges and corner these small animal vets or these exotic vets
who
that
have what?
they're
You said
graduating
6
with
to 10,
specialties.
yeah, 6 to 10 hours tops on rabbits for most of the basic small animal is what my understanding was. They don't spend that much time on rabbits.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
In fact, in school, you were lucky if you got a 4 to 6 hour general rundown on the Lagomorpha.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's it. You get 4 to 6 hours. Now, if you're going to specialize in exotics, you're going to get 90% of your education after you leave school. If you happen to intern under a vet who does small animals and Lagomorpha, the Lagomorphs, rabbits, pikas, small animals like that, or if you're lucky enough to do a zoo,
Mm-hmm.
When you do your internship, then you might get that kind of education. But you are not taught that in school. And what they do is they corner these fresh out of school vets, and they're like, oh, we know all about rabbits. If you need anybody to help you with rabbits, we're happy to help you.
Wow.
And they wheedle their way in, and so they get all these vets that happen to be on their payroll because they were able to corner them right out of school and make themselves seem like they were an authority when they're not.
Yeah. Well, well, I don't even know about zoos. But, okay, when it comes to zoos and livestock, zoos are great for, like, big exotics, lions, whatever. They're, well, at least the Fort Wayne Zoo was, like, completely friggin' stupid on livestock, because we walked in with their Indiana livestock setup, and I'm walking through looking at these obese goats, and these just, like, and they're, like, hairs falling out, and I'm like, they were in horrible condition, and I'm like, that is an easy fix. What are you feeding them?
Well, no,
they all, and it was like, they needed mineral. The thing is, I'm looking around going, there's no mineral blocks. I'm like, that is a selenium deficiency, that is a copper deficiency, that is, I just, like, I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, no, this is not, this is shitty food. What are you doing? It's like, you're supposed to be experts at this, but you're not, because you have no fucking clue about livestock. So.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is with the livestock here, we've got, we got Frank Buck Zoo, and we have the Fort Worth Zoo and stuff like that. They limit, like other zoos and places, they'll let the people feed the animals and stuff. There's lockout limits on the feeders, and they have, so there's lockout limits on the feeders. You're only allowed to do so much at sometimes. They always have mineral blocks. They're always, it's a totally different thing from zoo to zoo, so it depends on the ones that you go to. I just happen to have my experiences in really good ones. So, I did, the Phoenix Zoo is the same way. It's a very specific thing. But it's just one of those things that they do. They corner these vets and tell them that they're an authority on rabbits. And if they ever need help with anything, to contact them. And so they make friends with these vets, and then they can fall back and say, well, this vet says. And it's because that vet has been fed this line of bull from House Rabbit Society.
I showed you that response I gave to the one girl from Facebook the other day, where it's like, hey, I think it was a pooping problem, and it's like, well, what they keep us digging in the litter box, and I go, well, get a wire bottom cage, and with a drop, so that way you can have a drop pan, so that solves that issue, so it's not sitting and digging and making everything getting filthy, because that was her complaint. And the reason for that is they're going to get urine scald, which is why flat bottoms are so bad. And then of course she answers back, well, unless you're actually a vet, you shouldn't say it, because I saw online that's not good for that. I'm like, well, you saw my response, and I'm like, here's 40 years of experience and 18 links. Shut up. So.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing. I've had rabbits at flat bottoms. I've had rabbits in wire cages, and I'm sorry, but wire cages are the appropriate cage for a rabbit. It keeps their feet dry. It keeps their nails growing in the correct direction. They don't get urine scald. You know, my rabbit Leo, he was in, let's see, his cage was, and this is a house rabbit, mind you, so he got out quite a bit. But he was in a Midwest Critter Nation, that was his cage, and he had a litter box. And so, even with that litter box, I knew that I had to watch his feet, or I had to have that litter super deep. You know, so it's all about how you approach it and what you're thinking. And like this stuff over here about, oh, they're the third most abandoned animal in the shelters, and no, the third most abandoned animal in shelters actually happens to be at this time is reptiles.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even rabbits; it's reptiles.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We're gonna get back to this. We have, of course, Bunny Island here, which is that is actually a
man, that's a dream. I'd love there just lay down and let a million bunnies eat pellets off me.
Know someone who does. So, where exactly do all these rabbits come from, and what is going to happen to all of them? You might be surprised to find out.
The dark, twisted truth about breeding rabbits. Yeah, they have to make it evil, huh?
Oh yeah.
What's going on with us?
And there's our colony bun that got chewed up because he was in a colony.
Together. Basically, it's a hoarding situation. I mean, she doesn't consider herself a hoarder because she loves the bunnies.
Most hoarders don't consider
you're right.
themselves
Most hoarders don't, and she's a sweet person. She has a good heart, but she has no idea about bunnies, how to feed them, how to care for them, how to keep them safe. All the males have started fighting, and it looks like Oscar was very badly injured. You can see on this side.
Yeah,
That's
and this
a textbook example right there of why you don't do colonies.
Yeah, and that's my whole take too. That's why I don't like colonies for this exact reason, and that's why I get nervous enough even having the girls together. I really would rather get those boys split up. But yeah, as soon as we start showing any signs of stuff like this, they get pulled out and put in quarantine because we just don't deal with this. But yeah,
and House Rabbit Society actively condones
colonies,
putting rabbits in colonies like this.
So
and this is what happened.
And this is the contradiction, though, because now she's going, oh, well, it was a hoarding, it was a colony, and they were unneutered male bucks. It doesn't matter if they're neutered or not, to be honest.
No, they're going to be territorial regardless. I mean,
which is what I was explaining to one of my buyers today.
Removing the hormones, it calms them down some, but rabbits are hardwired to be territorial regardless of their sex or regardless of their sex.
Yeah, and
females will do it to each other. Males will do it to each other. When they're in a colony setting, they will fight for territory. It is hardwired.
All right, actually, I'm gonna let her know that we're streaming because there's just some questions because she's looking to get maybe one more. But she wants to get them all altered, and I'm like, but this it's a personality thing. I mean, some of them are fine for like forever, and then you have other ones that they're going to get picked on. So so what I had told her is just keep in mind, make sure you got space, because if you're going to have to separate them,
make sure you have the ability to separate them if you need to.
Okay, streaming bunny talk. Okay, go. But yeah, so back to here. So this is an example.
Fights with other bunnies. His back end is actually abscessed.
Yeah, and look he's chewed all up.
All the way down.
He's got skin infections. He's got wound infections all over him. His ears are shredded, and this is what happens when you put rabbits in a colony situation. They will fight for territory.
These are all bite marks, and his feet are just filthy. And this is him.
And his feet are filthy because he's been sitting on a flat surface instead of on a wire cage.
That side more, but the other side was also gotten a little bit, but that was the worst.
2 years ago, I visited a rabbit hoarding situation for the first time.
Again, hoarder, not breeder. Not the same thing.
Hoarder, not breeder.
Hoarder,
they
not
are not
breeder.
The same thing, and they're making a false equivalency.
Yeah.
A young woman who started off with just 2 bunnies, both unspayed and unneutered, wound up with over 60 rabbits, uncontrollably.
So I did the
And
math
that's
on
just
this.
somebody who got 2 rabbits and
Yeah.
they got out of hand.
And again, and that's why I made the video today on TikTok. If you're going to breed rabbits, you better be able to do a hard cull, because you can't just let that happen. That's your responsibility to control that shit. Either you get them in separate cages, or you got to work something out. But you can't. But by the time you've gotten to 60, so that means that she's probably mom averages 5 to 7 a litter. That's going to be just from mom. That's at least 4 litters from mom. Plus, by the time you get to the 4th litter, the babies are going to start. Because they're going to be 4 months old, so they're going to start breeding, and so 60. She's lucky she caught it at 60, because it's like that.
Yeah,
you can
that
get.
She caught it at 60.
You can, because there was one guy I was talking to who just wanted to take some and turn them loose in the yard, and I'm like, he's like, my friend did it. He took like this and a couple other ones and turned them loose, and he had 150 rabbits by September, and I'm like, yeah, that's what happens. So.
Well, I mean, they get them up to that point too, and they start killing each other. So
yeah, if they're all thrown in.
But there's no telling how many. There's no telling how many this lady's rabbits, just straight up, unalived each other.
Yeah.
These hoarding crises are not uncommon in the rabbit world. With a gestation period of only 30 days, domestic rabbits can have up to 150 babies a year. The woman was unable...
Wait. Yeah, I mean, it's possible or more, but you back to back.
Absolutely
yeah.
uncontrolled.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely uncontrolled breeding.
Many of them died and many were surrendered to a local rescue willingly.
Many of them died, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if animal control had been notified...
This is that Asian island is what this is from. That's that Bunny Island footage again. Just so we're clear. This is not like Los Angeles having rampant rabbits running everywhere.
Yeah, that's the Rabbit Island in Japan. And now pause right there.
Mm-hmm.
You're sitting there saying that if the animal control had been, if animal control had been notified, all the rabbits would have been euthanized. I'm sorry,
Not really.
but in an overflow situation like that, you need to cull the rabbits. And having them euthanized is not a bad thing.
No.
And people need to, oh my God, the rabbits are going to die. I'm sorry. Some rabbits will die. And some rabbits need to be euthanized or culled.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. They need to have that done. In a situation where the rabbits have bred out of control like that, you need to euthanize/cull them to control that population. That is not a bad thing. These people here are making it seem like, putting them down is a bad thing when it's not. If you don't want an overpopulation situation in your shelter, you need to make it okay to cull.
Yeah. And well, that goes back to the whole, they are a food animal, and if you're going to complain and beg for, like I don't know, Lawrence County shelter, they're always begging for food for the dogs, and I'm like, well,
kill the rabbits and feed them to the cats and the dogs. It's a healthier meat.
yeah.
It's low in fat, and I'm sure that the dogs and the cats would appreciate it thoroughly.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on.
As the third most abandoned animal
again.
just doesn't meet the demand to house every domestic rabbit.
How often
Dozens of pet bunnies left to die. Yeah, they get dumped
Sometimes
by
I get
idiots.
call every day. They're constantly coming in during the year, and
That is not
it's never ending.
an idiot who
Last
dumps
week I-
their rabbits on the side of the road is not an appropriate breeder with experience and knowledge.
No. And that's why there's all these false equivalencies here. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
They're equating
Sometimes I
breeders
get a
with
call every
this
day.
mess.
They're constantly
And they're
coming
trying to say
during
that
the
there's
year,
no
and
such
it's-
thing as a good breeder.
it's
Yes, there
never
is. There is a
ending. And
world of
last
difference.
week I got 50 lab rabbits.
well, she said she got 50 lab rabbits. Lab rabbits that's not coming from, that's
A breeder.
that's not coming from a breeder. That's coming from brokers that sold to the lab. And if the lab is just kicking them off into rescue, That's she chose the.
That's
I
a
guarantee you.
lab
I guarantee
problem,
you,
yeah.
she chose to take them in, because most of this level of rescue, they have agreements. Like with dogs, the worst thing about some of the dog rescues, where they would go to the Amish puppy mill auctions and they would buy the puppies. Not the parents.
Yeah, and then
not rescue the
it's a retail
parents.
rescue at that point.
Yeah, then just like North Shore Animal League was awful about doing that, where they would, and then there was a bunch of other shelters up in the Northeast where they would take southern dogs that they rescue on the the Doggy Underground Railroad, but it was puppies. It was so many puppies, and they would take the puppies,
Yeah.
and then but they didn't want to take mom, or if they did take mom, who knows what happened to mom, because they want that sob story.
Yeah.
And it always annoyed me, because that's why I was doing breed rescue specifically. So I do specifically schnauzers, and I'm very picky about which rescues I'll work with. Like, they have to be club sanctioned rescues, or I didn't want to deal with it, because if it's
Yeah,
club
because
sanctioned, it's fine. But
A lot of these people are real retail rescues, or they have standing agreements with different places, so that way they can fill their cages and have sob stories for all of them, and so that way they can milk more donation funds.
well, we had like down in Georgia, like they kept going crazy, going, "Oh, it's gassing. I'm like, no, this is," because I've always been very level-headed about when I was doing my dog rescues. I was a rescue contact for a long time, and you would push them out to the list, going, "Hey, does anyone have room? We have this specific breed that came in, and it was animal controlled, and there was like a 5-day hold max, and so you'd have to have something set up, or they were going to be put down." And so you'd go and say, "Hey, we got this breed. Does anyone, have room to do this?" And of course, you'd get the Bleeding Hearts jump in there, and they would make a story up to make it worse than it was. And I'm like, it's bad enough just being what it is. You don't have to be like, they're gonna murder it tomorrow. I'm like, that's just unfair. It's
Exactly.
But they and the court, because what all that it would do is then you'd start getting people emailing and calling the shelter and screaming at them, "How dare you do this to this dog?" And that's just wasting everyone's time that's trying to actually take care of what we're dealing with. And I remember actually Bloomington had that issue, because someone did something like that about Bloomington, Illinois, not Bloomington, Indiana. And so Bloomington Animal Care and Control which is Monroe County's local shelter, which I volunteer. I was a adoption counselor and dog walker, so I actually sat down with people, and we walked through, okay, what's going to fit, which one of these is going to fit your family the best. And I was there that day that there was some big story that went on for Bloomington, Illinois, and they would call us, and the phones were blowing up all day long, as people screaming at our shelter, and we had nothing to do with that. So but I guess it's a huge waste of time. But they get these people all riled up, and I'm like, in the meantime, they're a low kill shelter in the way that low kill was supposed to have been. No kill was supposed to be when it started. The original philosophy for no kill, and I'm going to say this because we're going to be recording, but the original philosophy was started up in New York, and it was to temperament test and train the dogs and the cats to make sure that they were healthy enough to be every healthy animal they would try to get out of the shelter. There was caveats.
Suitable,
It's
suitable for
sick,
adoption.
vicious, whatever, and if it does not, they still get put to sleep, because again, and the same thing with the rabbits, and we'll get into that again later. It's like temperament. If the temperament is not suitable to go out in public, you're endangering the public by releasing that animal. It doesn't matter if you want to say that you're no kill. Sometimes that's
Exactly.
Anyway, so we're
sometimes it's a better choice, like I said before. It's a better choice to euthanize if that animal is going to have a crap quality of life because of the choices that you're making for that animal, because that's what this is. These are choices being made for these animals.
Yeah.
And you can't sit there and complain about, oh, well, this happened and this happened and this happened. Well, if you had done, a modicum of research and actually paid attention to what really needed to be done instead of what your feelings told you, then you'd have a much better outcome with a lot of these rabbits.
Yeah.
But I see with the House Rabbit Society, I see a lot more of them being surrendered back to their original shelters because they were retail rescues.
Mm-hmm.
Because they aren't paying attention to these things. They're giving poor information. The rabbits end up sick, or they end up in colony situations where they're fighting. And it becomes a vicious cycle. And then they want to sit there and complain about how appropriate breeders are doing their jobs. And it's really funny how the rabbits are coming out of appropriate breeders are not leaving the homes that they started in, and how they are not ending up in shelters. And they're trying to pitch this, idea, this mass, oh God, these animals are being stuck in these homes, and they aren't paying attention to them. No, that is not a real breeder. A real breeder is going to ask you, how much information do you know about rabbits? Do you know how to feed a rabbit? Do you know how to take care of them? You're going to get read the riot act from a breeder who knows what they're doing. And just like with dogs, there's a difference. And so with any rescue that you go to, you want to ask them the same questions that they're asking of you. Do you know how to feed a rabbit? What do you feed a rabbit?
Well,
where should you put them?
Weren't you
a wire cage a good thing?
Yeah, weren't you walked me through? We had the conversation of a couple weeks ago about. You said one of the worst cases that you saw when you were working as an exotic vet tech was the person was doing line by line what the House Rabbit Society had told them to do.
Yeah, this rabbit ended up violently sick because they took it home and they fed it a bunch of vegetables. And instead of giving it any pellets, it ended up with a nutrient deficiency. It ended up with violent diarrhea. It was so sick. And there was nothing that you could do about it. Because these people had been brainwashed into thinking that that was what they were supposed to do.
Yeah. Alright, so we're going back to the documentary.
Oh, I would say
Yep.
I've never done an official count. Probably over.
If you hear me munching, I'm going through my dinner.
Wow. I am overwhelmed by the amount of rabbits wanting to come in, and knowing that even though I'm one of 6 rescues in Los Angeles, that we cannot take in everything that is proffered up to us. It's not possible, and so rabbits will die. Breeders.
Oh wait, are those rescue rabbits in wire cages? Was that?
It's not playing on my screen.
Everything that is proffered up to us. It's not.
Yep.
It's
I don't see it playing. It's still on the.
I'm gonna restart it.
You kicked me out. Yeah, we got talking too long.
Yeah. Okay. No, see,
there we go.
Look, is that that looks like rescue rabbits in wire cages? Not even proper. Personally. Yeah. Personally.
Hold on.
Yeah, we're gonna go.
Look at the size of those things. They're like dog crates.
They are dog crates.
The amount of rabbits wanting to come in, and knowing that even though I'm one of 6 rescues in Los Angeles, that we cannot take in everything that is proffered up to us.
So these are wire dog kennels with, but look at how wide. That will give them sore hocks. There's not enough floor surface on this wire in order for them to properly walk on it, and so that that will cause a problem. And I don't even. It's like when we say proper wire, we mean proper wire.
Look at the spacing on that wire.
Yeah, that's a good. This is an inch. That's maybe half an inch. But even at half an inch, that's not enough surface area. Because my gauge wire, just so people understand, the proper gauge wire is going to be 12, 14, or 16 gauge, and it's going to be 1 inch by a half inch, so that you only have these little rectangles, and they're thick wire and they're little rectangles.
You're reducing the space, so when the foot falls on that wire, it's not spreading out as far. So like when the rabbit, if you look at this wire, how there is no supports going across
there's
those
very
areas.
very few supports.
Yeah,
very
so when
few.
the rabbit puts its foot horizontally, where the gap is on that thing, its foot can slip sideways into that.
They're bird cages.
And it can,
They're bird
yeah,
cages.
it can rub its feet on that gap, but in proper wire flooring, that doesn't happen. The foot spreads out like a snowshoe, and it helps distribute the weight over the wire. And people wonder why if a rabbit's on wire, it's getting Thor hawks. It's because crap like this.
Yeah.
And then they try to say that it's bad.
Yeah.
It will die. Breeders want the one show rabbit, and so out of a birth of
So here we have stolen from.
Oh man. Okay, I have bone to pick with this.
This is your movie, isn't it?
12 rabbits.
Yeah.
If they have
That's
one
from
that they
Rabbit
think is
Fever.
good-
Pause.
Mm-hmm.
So this right here,
Mm-hmm.
we want one show rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no. We want the whole litter to be show rabbits.
Yeah.
We want to breed to that standard of perfection and end up with all of the litter being able to be shown. And in most of the cases, 90% of that litter ends up to be show rabbits.
Mm-hmm.
Very few of them end up to be pets. You have more of what you need than what you don't. You breed to have more of what you need than what you... Improving your breed so that way there is no waste out of your litters. Because pets are the waste out of litters.
Mm.
If you're breeding appropriately and you're breeding to standard, you are not going to end up with one show rabbit and the rest of them are all pets. If you are not breeding a proper rabbit.
All right.
8 to 12 rabbits. If they have one that they think is good, all the others are given away. Basically,
Wait. All the others are given away. We're just gonna give them away.
We're just going to give them away. All that feed and time and energy and everything else.
Remember,
We're just going to give them away.
I told you I asked. I think it was Randy who had a really nice doe that I was looking at. I go, how much? $200. Yeah, they're not gonna give them away.
Yep.
No.
We're giving them away.
Yeah, $200 for a good quality show rabbit, and the cheapest I'll go is $25 because I got to at least pay for a bag of feed, and it's like, and of course I got shit again by that today. The guy's like, I'm looking for a bunch of rabbits. And I'm like, well, I got a bunch, but they're going to be at least $25 each. That's too much. Like, oh well. But yeah.
Oh well, move on. Yeah.
Oh well, that's all right. All right.
It costs that much because it takes me
fucking hours. Yeah.
they'll charge if they have a really cute one in the back.
If they have a really cute one, they'll charge for it. Most likely, if it's no good, it's going to get either eaten, turned into a coat. It's going to get cold. It's not going to necessarily get petted out.
Yeah. You aren't going to be keeping them.
Yeah. They're not.
And that's just it. Like I said, you're breeding so that way you don't end up with that many.
Yeah.
Like when I was through my whole career, I bred twice a year, and summer and fall, and in those, I might end up with 4 out of maybe 20 kits.
Mm-hmm.
I might end up with 4 that were pets.
Yeah.
So I mean, and this giving them away thing, that's not a breeder.
Yeah.
That is somebody. Well, that is somebody who's just fly by night. They got too many rabbits on their hands and they don't know what to do.
Well, that's the example that she's going to give in a minute about. Oh well, I was breeding. It's like, no, you got a couple of lion hens for pets, and then mom decided to sell them, and you didn't do any research. And then for me, I breed meat rabbits. I breed commercial. So if they don't find a home or not good enough to keep back for a show or whatever, by the time that they hit 16 weeks, I have buyers that are looking for 5 to 6 pound carcasses, which means they go in the freezer, and I'm making probably $40 on that carcass. So they're actually worth more to be dead than alive, to be really honest. So
exactly.
Yeah.
They'll charge $300 to $500 for one, and people will pay to get a nice lop or a little dwarf, and then they make some money, but they've got their show rabbit, and the rest they don't care about, and they always give them away.
Bullshit.
I don't know about no care.
They have their show rabbit, and the rest they don't care about. Bullshit.
No,
That's just straight up bullshit.
well, even like with like the New Zealand club here, they all talk to each other. They know you go to the shows, they're all networking back to each other. Hey, how's that doe doing? You know, actually, like I said, again, back to Randy, he's actually slightly, you know, he did gift a doe to another show person, so because he didn't think she was going to be good enough, he didn't use her, and she's been beating the rest of his rabbits. But they're always checking in on each other. So like, how's whoever doing, who's mixing with who, and the people know, you know, where these buns end up, and they have your pedigrees, and you can, like, even me, I have I got a couple lions that, you know, he's quit, so hold those. But
They're 3 months old, which is before they get to the hormone stage. Sometimes we'll even kill the rest that are not good enough for show.
Well, you might, yeah, because they're meat.
They even kill the rest that are not good enough for show. Get out of your feelings.
Because
I'm
they're
sorry.
livestock. Yeah.
Horrible what happens to these animals. And so the people are taking them as these sweet little babies, not knowing what's going to happen in 1 or 2 months.
If you're getting them from a good breeder, they are going to walk you through what is going to happen in the next 2 months. I know I seriously walk all my people through it. So if it's going to be going to pets, like, hey, you understand, and 6 to 8 months they're going to get hormonal. If you have a girl, but I usually like to screen them first, going, is this a 4-H project, is this an FFA project, are you looking to do homesteading, because I prefer to sell them to people that are looking to get into homesteading or whatever. And I get people, you know, message me all the time, because I make myself open to that. So I get my buyers come, hey, help, I need, you know, information, and I'll text them right back, get a hold of them, call them, whatever.
And my son brought up a good point. You know, if they don't want to spend the money, then they don't need one.
No.
You know, if they don't want to spend the money or have the education and stuff done, then they don't need rabbit. Period.
Nope.
In a story.
Yep.
You know, it's easier to turn them down. But they think that we don't do any kind of research on our people.
No.
They have to pay $500 to $800 to spay and neuter them to get those hormones.
That you have to spend $500 to $800 to spay and neuter to get those hormones out of the bunny.
Spend $500 to $800 for them to die on the operating table.
Yeah. And the thing is, they don't need to be spayed or neutered if you're getting a single, and you have them litter box trained. I would there.
Bunny healthy, and they don't want them normal either, and they all end up in the shelters or in the rescues.
And they all of them end. No, they don't. I have not had a single one of my rabbits. Not a single one that has gone out has come into either of the 2 shelters in the area, because I tattoo all of them. And
every decent breeder has a return policy. Yeah.
Well, I've had to chase a girl down once, actually. She took one as a pet, and the agreement was, this is a pet, and if you need anything, you contact me first. Well, she showed up on Craigslist, or no, it was Facebook first, and she posted the bunny on Fufu on Facebook, and we were getting the thing, and someone messaged me, notified me, and I'm like, oh, hold on. So I jumped on the thread, and I'm like, no, you're supposed to come back here if you can't keep her. And I actually had someone from Indianapolis went and grabbed her, and then we met up in Martinsville to get my rabbit back, because she was like, she got tired of her after like 3 months, and so she is now marked down on the do not adopt list, because she didn't want to. Apparently, it wasn't the first time she'd done it, because someone else had said, yeah, she pulled that shit with her like 6 months prior, where she took the animal in.
In all the years that I did it, I only had 1 return, but I was able to follow all the rest of them through their life. Oh, yeah. I mean, I was able to follow every single one of them until they died. You know,
Brian keeps me constant updates. The lady who took Bunna La Mancha, she was just talking to me today, and then well, you see Shrimp's constantly updating. Hey, Calamity. Well, I'm not showing buns. Actually, we're reviewing a propaganda film put on by the House Rabbit Society that came out this week, busting on all breeders as evil, and we are basically just debunking it. So today is a debunking day, Calamity. But yeah, but that's, you know, I my people that have gone out, I have an idea where they're at least. So we keep in touch. But anyway, we're gonna.
I get the Rolodex. You know, antique equipment, but I kept a Rolodex with the name cards, with phone numbers and contact information, so that way I could go back and, you know, it's been 2 years since I checked on this rabbit. I'm gonna give him a call, and I'd call him out of the blue.
Marshmallow is a domestic. I love that they don't even know what they are. Marshmallow is a domestic rabbit.
And they all end up in the shelters or in the rescue.
Let's see.
Well, they end up in the shelters or the rescues. They end up in the shelters or the rescues. They just want to hammer that home.
Marshmallow is a New Zealand white rabbit, most likely. Or New Zealand white mix. They claim he's 4 months old. I don't think he's 4 months old. That looks like he's at least full grown.
That's a full-year buck.
Yeah, that's at least a full year buck. So they don't even know what they got.
On purpose, or only breeding them for show or for meat? And for meat, I mean, if they get sick, you know, they don't care as much because they're a food source.
I care about them if they get sick, because there's multiple reasons. One, I don't want my bunnies being sick. And yeah, they are a food source, but you can't eat a sick rabbit, and then they get everybody else sick. So ideally, you don't want them to get sick.
And sick rabbits don't weigh as much as not sick rabbits.
Well, they don't have much meat on them, so yeah, it's...
Unlike other animals, bunnies have...
There's so much damn misinformation here.
Oh, I know.
Look, okay, so that is a commercial meat breeder.
Yeah.
And...
I don't even know if that's a U.S. breeder, because those are pretty tight. That looks like a Chinese breeder.
Those straight coops? Probably Spain, actually.
Yeah.
That looks like a Spanish,
But it doesn't look like U.S., because all the U.S. ones I've seen have more space.
I think that's Spanish.
Yeah.
Historically, they've been bred for meat, for the fur industry, and used as laboratory...
She couldn't even get any lab footage. So.
No, she had to use the scary...
Yeah.
The mass production of rabbits in such a short period...
And again, back to Bunny Island.
Back to Bunny Island.
Bunny Island is a Japanese island that is overrun with domestic rabbit. Was it purposely done? I'm trying to remember. There's a history behind why.
No, it was okay, so there was lab rabbits that were released that were dumped on the island after World War II, and they just have bred until this massive conglomerate colony.
But they're all very friendly, apparently, because they'll run up and, you know...
Oh, yeah, because it's become a tourist attraction, so they're constantly exposed to humans, so they're very friendly.
Yeah.
Mass abandonment.
I love mass abandonment. That's a tourist trap. So anyway...
Serious lack of education regarding...
Oh yeah, there's an awesome... Yeah, I love how they want to push the reproductive health. Okay, let me... Fact of the matter. If you breed your doe, if you breed her, the chances of her getting cancer drops to like 1%. Because they are supposed to be bred. Because
1%,
because the hormones prevent them.
They are literally genetically built to breed. They are built to breed. If they don't breed, then their reproductive systems begin to shut down. When that happens, they start getting cancer and having aneurysms and all these other things that they're talking about. Only happen because they aren't reading them.
And the other point was the study that they always go back to. They always reference this one study. And this one study was using lab-bred rabbits for cancer research to research if you didn't, how many of them got cancer. Like, if you're specifically using rabbits that were... Just like when she just said, I just took 50 lab animals in, what were they being studied for? Because a lot of the lab strains in New Zealand are bred specifically to have certain genetic defects so they can test things on them. So that is another question: is what line was that?
They're testing these rabbits that are put. If they have cancer stem cells that are they're actual cancer cells.
Yeah.
So that way they can have a resource for cancer cell lines for petri dishes.
Yeah.
And so they use them to harvest these cells these cancer cells that they can use in petri dishes. Of course they're going to have cancer. They were bred to have cancer.
Yeah, and that is the study that they always go back to is, well, 80% of these got, unaltered, got uterine cancer. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a flawed study. So,
proper care, food, and housing.
Oh yeah, all three
Proper care,
things:
food, and housing. Man, pot calling kettle black there. I know.
Realized that one was a boy and one was a girl, but then the owner is left with the problem of having.
Who's not sexing these rabbits when they pick them up?
Yeah, this is number one. If your rabbits aren't properly sexed when you get them, you aren't getting them from an appropriate location.
If your breeder, because I sex them at as well. I got one who I could sex him at 3 days because he's a boy, guaranteed boy.
Very much a boy.
He's very much a boy. Well, but they get sexed at 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Again, they're 12 or 16 weeks if they're still around, and they get sexed at pickup. So we review because they can. The older they get, sometimes the easier it's going to be to properly sex them. So.
Yep, that's sex change fairy.
Yeah, they do that. We've had that this year too.
5 to 10 additional rabbits that they have to try to recull. And I've seen where people have multiple intact male rabbits and they fight.
Well, yeah.
And, had a rabbit that came in with.
Because rabbits are not herd animals.
No, they're not. That's the thing. But what I don't understand is at the same time they're saying this for this part of the documentary. But if you go research their websites, they're like, oh yeah, they're totally herd animal. Oh yeah, we totally put it together. So.
Lacerated, severely lacerated, and the owner refused treatment. That was the worst.
Rabbits suffer silently. People don't think of putting their dog or their cat in a hutch, right? It's just wrong to keep a rabbit outside.
Because cats and dogs are not rabbits. Stop comparing apples to oranges.
But people don't know that. When you Google rabbit housing, what comes up? Hutches and cages. Why? Because the manufacturers are still making money selling those. But those are...
That is a big cage. This right here is a properly sized rabbit cage with proper... everything about this is actually correct.
That's correct.
Everything here is correct.
That is correct.
It is a large... That's probably a 48 by either 24 or 30 by at least 18. So what you are looking at is a full-sized meat rabbit breeding, with doe with litter. So this is
doe with litter or grow outs.
Yeah, or grow outs, and these are proper size cages. These are actually slightly bigger than the ones I have, so they are mine are within what they're supposed to, and hi Alexander.
Yours are within European standards, which are even higher than the American standards.
Yeah, so mine are within standard, and these are even bigger than that. The ones on the screen are even bigger than that. Hello, Alexander. Okay, we're reviewing Lennon the Bunny's propaganda film for the House Rabbit Society, where she says all breeders are evil. So we're breaking it down because it's a propaganda film. But yeah. Anyway. This is no. That's.
Those are not humane ways to house rabbits. I'm sorry, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Completely, 100% wrong.
Educating people about spay and neuter, about the overpopulation problem, and about...
There's no overpopulation problem with rabbits because you eat them.
Overpopulation problem, yeah, right.
When they're living in a hutch, it's a small area, they're bored, they're sad, they're lonely, and it's very...
She's projecting human emotions onto a rabbit.
You know what makes them mad is having... And again... This is the same. How much you want to bet she got this out of the same rescue? Because this is that same type of wire bird cages that we don't keep our rabbits in. This is inappropriate. Oh no! Wait, that's Chinese. That's a Chinese newspaper. So I'm curious.
Yeah. No, that is not proper flooring.
In solitary confinement, the rabbits are very social animals, and
they're not really social. Actually, they're not
extremely territorial.
Yeah.
They're extremely territorial.
And then also, we commonly will see diseases are more progressed when it's an outdoor pet.
In a colony?
Yeah, when it's an outdoor pet, when it's on the ground, of course.
Yeah, and that's why we keep them up and off the ground.
Because you don't notice when your rabbit is starting to...
That's a wild rabbit. That is not even a domestic rabbit. That is a wild rabbit.
Very mangy wild rabbit. I know right away if we're having issues because they get checked twice a day, on average. So, and so it's some of this stuff. That's the problem with buns. rabbits, by the time they show you they're having a problem, they're very far advanced, and rabbit issues happen quickly because they have such high metabolisms. So things like ear mites,
by the time you notice, they're already 3/4 of the way gone.
Yeah.
There's just no way around that. They don't, and that is a prey instinct.
Yep.
They don't show their weaknesses, so that way they don't end up dinner.
Yep.
And cats do the same thing.
And it doesn't matter if it's a house rabbit or not, because I cannot tell you how many of these posts I've seen on Facebook, like, oh, my rabbit, suddenly he was fine yesterday, and today he seems really, really thin, and he has diarrhea. Because it happens that quick.
House Rabbit Society, there's a whole section on bloat where they've fed them, gobs and gobs of vegetables and stuff, and then they wonder why they bloated.
They'll live 12 to 15 years.
Okay.
Dwarf? 12, 15 years in wire cages, I'm sorry.
And dwarf breeds, will live a lot longer. I mean, the actual average lifespan for New Zealand, I think, is 6 to 8. So,
because they're a bigger rabbit.
Yeah, and she brings that up, and I love this. It doesn't matter. That doesn't have anything. No, because usually those are New Zealand's or they're larger breeds, and they commonly live 6 to 8. That's just...
Yeah, that's just their lifespan. But on top of that, some of this data can be skewed because of the fact that they are culled early.
Yeah.
And so the lifespan can be skewed because they're culled because they are commercial rabbits.
Yeah.
What are some of the crazy stories that you've seen when it comes to this?
One of the most common issues that we have in this area in Los Angeles, in the fashion district, there are people that are selling.
Now that's
China.
This is the only part. This is the only part of the documentary that I agree with. Putting 4-week-old kits out for sale with a couple pieces of lettuce and all this. That's reprehensible. That is absolutely wrong. It should not be done.
No.
It's the only part of this I ever agreed with.
Yeah. And those are babies.
Yeah, those are 4-week-old kids.
Maybe not even, to be honest. It looks like they maybe 3.5, because they're maybe because my 4.5-week-old one. Well, I just showed you pictures of him. He's a little chonker. He's got more fur. Yeah, these. I think these are just eyes open, and any sane reputable breeder is not going
to do this.
No. And I know we got in arguments with that. People are like, oh yeah, I totally wean my kids at 4 weeks, and by the time they're weaned, go to the next one. I'm like, that's back to back to back, and like if you're gonna do it, okay, but I don't recommend it, and I'm gonna do it to my girls.
Yeah, that's not a thing. Yeah.
Hi, Pony. No, we are currently reviewing a propaganda film by the House Rabbit Society that says all breeders are evil, but we're gonna get to this. Like, yeah, no, this is not acceptable, and any decent breeder is gonna tell you that.
Probably about a month old. They're pulled away from their mom too early. They're subjected to stress.
It's also not that common it's common, but not as common as they're trying to make it out to be, because most places like this looks like it's another country. This is I don't even think this is U.S.
It's in China.
Is it China? Well, Chinatown's a whole other. Yeah, Chinatown might be a whole other country.
Yeah, it's Chinatown
because
in
it's not legal. Because it's not this is not legal. In the California rules, there's 8 weeks. Period. It's 8 weeks, and these are 4 weeks old. No, that is illegal. Because
it's already illegal.
Yeah.
I mean, what more do they want? It's already an illegal thing to do. It's reprehensible. Why are they? And look at that. It's full of vegetables and stuff, and tiny little cages, piece of carrot, piece of lettuce. Yeah, and then they go home and they die. And I completely agree. That is not the right thing to do.
No, and they're not going to. So yeah, this is accurate.
It does for those baby bunnies. Yes.
Well, I don't know why they're saying it's not the fashion district. It's Chinatown, because that's the fashion district is a completely different area of Los Angeles. So I don't even understand why that came into it. It's like 6. I used to live in LA.
Yeah, well, the one that they showed in the purple cage, that was in
That's Chinatown. That's not the fashion district. So I don't even know why they want to even with that. Anyway.
Sold, for Easter, don't survive, and so it becomes a negative.
You don't sell rabbits. A good breeder is not going to sell rabbits at Easter. A good breeder is not going to sell rabbits at Christmas.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I no. We don't do that unless it's going to specifically a 4-H or an FFA home and we have a long conversation, but not for the purpose of being an Easter bunny. So.
And there's a lot of education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Child or the rabbit a favor.
On the one hand, you're teaching your children how to care for an animal. Problem is you really, as the teacher, you're responsible for that pet and giving it the best life possible. And for it to be sitting in a cage, hardly handled, not...
Well, this goes for the dogs too. That's why we've explained. When I was adoption counselor at the shelter here, you are the adult. You are adopting this dog. It's not your kid's dog. You are adopting this dog because you are, So you need to understand. Just because we're getting it for the kids, at the end of the day, no. You can assist them, but if anything goes wrong, don't you blame your kid for not feeding it or walking it or letting it out. That is your responsibility because you are the adult. So. Yep.
Not spayed or neutered, not fed correctly.
Well, they're not fed correctly is interesting because what they're gonna,
not given the exercise, the emotional stimulation it needs, then you're actually setting a bad example.
3 million rabbits euthanized every year in this country.
3 million rabbits euthanized. Citation needed, lady.
Yeah, I mean, are you including the meat rabbits? Are you what's being included in there? So
yeah, citation needed, please.
Euthanized. What's the number that's surrendered?
I decided to go undercover and visit some breeders that were selling bunnies on Craigslist.
I decided to go undercover and visit some breeders that were selling bunnies on Craigslist.
Oh, no. See, even pony lovers in here going, this is a propaganda film. Yes, it is a propaganda film. That's why
Look at this. Okay, this is a Midwest Critter Nation.
That's a nice cage, though.
That's a 36 by 24 cage. I know. I have one in the other room.
Those are expensive, too. Like, this is like one of those, like...
$200 a piece, honey.
Yeah.
One of the breeders recognized me, however.
One of the breeders recognized her. Yeah, shit.
And let's just say I had to make a run for it.
I would have loved to have seen that footage. Like, oh, yeah.
Oh, man, I would have loved to see her face. We're not stupid. We know that these people try to make these frickin' hit pieces, and we know animal rights activists when we see them.
Wait, which ones are the girls? These 4 are the boys. Everybody else is a girl.
And this is even a nicer setup than some of the other. I mean, she's got, they got big tubs and things. That's what they're like. So.
Yeah, those cages are huge. Okay, so what do you got on there? You got a little bit of fur. You have some hay.
But look at the size of the what she's these was it's a Holland Lop in like a New Zealand's cage. So
yeah, it's a Holland Lop in a freaking New Zealand's cage. That is a 4-pound rabbit in a 36 by 24 cage.
Yeah. And she looks like she's in a climate controlled cold area too, because that's a glass door.
Oh, and then she complains about their paws being yellow. Look, she's trying to use litter boxes with all these rabbits.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have any litter in there, so that's the reason their paws are that way.
It is.
And this person is going, detail by detail about all this work she does with these rabbits, and yet this person is, making it out to be a bad thing.
Well, she's like, and then she basically says, like, it's for my daughter, for my kids, to teach them how to be responsible, and obviously mom's doing the right thing because mom's making sure that she's getting hands on in here, so that's what you're supposed to do. It's a family thing.
Yeah, well, I'm saying that the person who's videotaping is making the assumption that it's automatically bad.
Yeah. let's find the one that's in quarantine and focus in on the one.
A rabbit got in a fight with another
rabbit.
Oh, guess what? And guess what, House Rabbit Society? What happens when your rabbits get together? They fight.
He's also got a misaligned jaw.
See, I don't know about that though, because if that was genetic or it was part of the fight, or like, there's a whole.
Or it could have been a birth injury when it was coming through the birth canal.
Or,
it could have.
Or when she says misaligned, does she actually mean malinclusion and it pulled its teeth on the wire? Because we just had a show rabbit do that. For one,
that's another possibility. It could have had malocclusion. It could have yanked its teeth on the wire. It could have been a birth injury. I mean, there's multiple different reasons for it. You wouldn't breed that rabbit.
No, it doesn't sound like she. It doesn't even sound like that rabbit's for sale, to be honest.
I was saddened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Of the rabbits, especially the one that had been injured due to being
like it's going to be any different than
by another rabbit.
God.
Panther explained,
And this is the part where
rabbits are
only
Unfixed
unfixed rabbits. Any of them can.
housed.
any of them can fight.
Yeah.
The poor genetics of interbred rabbits.
Well, I love this bred
Interbred.
rabbits. Okay, number one, you have no proof that this was an inbred rabbit, and number
Rabbit,
two, you
yeah.
have showed me no evidence that was even a genetic defect, because there's plenty of other ways.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, tell
For that
me,
to happen.
was it a genetic defect, or was it part of when it got injured? Was it an injury? Was it the whole thing? Yeah. Oh, this is great. Oh, poor genetics.
Had the misaligned jaw.
Are you? But that is totally speculation. There, that's completely speculation.
Pure, unadulterated speculation. Yep.
Have you encountered any health problems with bunnies that
Loaded.
would be interbred versus mixed?
Interbred. This is a loaded question, and it's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like you see that with dogs.
Definitely. And
No, it's not the same. And if they are,
No.
it's because that they're getting them from the labs that are bred specifically to have defects.
Or the other thing is that they're in a colony,
Mm-hmm.
and they started with 2 rabbits, and they have been they have
Oh, not
they have been
selectively.
inbred.
Not selectively.
Yeah, they have been inbred. Yeah, not selectively, but just randomly inbred to the point where that is not what breeders do. If a breeder is line breeding, it's going to be a cousin or a brother, or at the very closest, maybe back to a parent, but all those kids get bred out away from that line, and you don't have that in a controlled breeder setting. And somebody who has 2 rabbits that overbreed together is not a breeder. They are not a breeder, and they are conflating the two.
Mm-hmm.
I think that for people who are trying to create that perfect purebred rabbit, mainly for shows, those are the ones that are going to do that inbreeding.
No,
No.
that is a straight up lie.
Yeah. I mean, granted, you can get but then again, the research that's been done with them, if you're doing good genetics, rabbits can tolerate a much higher coefficient of inbreeding than most other animals can. You can
Yes,
there are they
because they can, and but that's just it. Most breeders, don't do that. If they are going to if they're going to line breed or something like that, it's going to be once or twice and then out.
Yeah.
They don't sit there and back to back to back to back to back to back to back like these people are implying.
And even in the studies that have done it, you have, in order to start getting really bad genetic defects like they're implying, they were saying something like 40 generations. Like you have to do more than 7 sibling breedings in order for it to get really, really bad. And most you don't do that. You don't do that. Like even though that tight litter I did Fred to Joe, and that is a sibling breeding, but the whole purpose was to try to get that white one. I'm hoping he's got good type, but he's not going to be bred back into that line, at least not for at least a couple generations.
No, he's going to be bred out away from that line, and that's how most rabbit breeders work. But they're conflating rabbit breeders with people who end up with a couple of bunnies that overbreed themselves.
Yeah.
Yes, you can get genetic issues with the lionhead rabbits, the ones that have all that fuzz around their neck. We do see a lot more dental issues with the larger bunnies, like the Flemish giants, checker giants.
Uh-huh.
Lionheads do not have dental issues. They are bred from Netherland dwarfs. There is a misconception about Netherland dwarfs that they have malocclusion because they have tugging, which is absolutely not true. A Netherland dwarf is not a brachiocephalic rabbit. It is a rabbit that is simply dwarf in size. Its cheeks muscles are larger. It has nothing to do. The nose is not pushed in. You can look at skulls of Netherland dwarfs and dwarf breeds in general, and they are not pugged like a pug dog. They are not a brachiocephalic animal. They have the perfect proportions. They're just small, and their muscles are big.
Okay.
And I'm assuming it's going to be seen with the continental giants that are becoming popular now too, is that those rabbits don't live as long, and they do get a lot.
Because they're bigger rabbits. They don't live as long because they're bigger rabbits.
Well, she does goes, just like the Great Danes. Yes, it is typical for larger dogs and larger animals not to have as long a lifespan. It's just...
It's normal.
It's normal.
Yeah. It's normal.
Okay, every rabbit has is prone to back problems. It's just the nature of rabbits.
They get to a certain age and they start becoming arthritic, just like human beings. You know, a human being over 60 years old most likely has some form of osteo or rheumatoid arthritis. It's normal. It is part of aging.
But no, Domino, because this next part tells you that that's only the inbred rabbits because they're regular breeds. But rescue rabbits are magical and don't have any of these problems.
Just don't live as long. They're basically the Great Danes of the rabbit world. Netherland dwarfs that have really tiny heads, tiny ears, with big bulging eyes, and so
bulging eyes. My ass.
Well, so certainly, a mixed breed rabbit is healthy.
God.
A mixed breed is going to be more healthy.
Yeah,
complete bullshit. Complete
right.
bullshit. Genetics is genetics is genetics. Yeah, it's the same thing with doodles and all these hybrid dogs. Hybrid mutts are not healthier than their well-bred counterparts because
they're well-bred, purebred counterparts.
Yeah.
No.
The conditions weren't any better with the second breeder. In fact, this breeder kept them in...
Okay, pause.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is, let's see, is that 1-inch square flooring?
It is hardware cloth on top of 1-inch square.
That's what I was saying. I was thinking, yeah.
It's
1-inch square hardware cloth. This dude does not have the foggiest clue what he's doing. He's got 7-month-old rabbits. I presume these are grow-outs that have gotten too old, and they've just outsized this cage.
Yeah.
And that's the reason he's got people in there, because he's trying to get them out.
Yeah.
You know, this was supposed to be a temporary situation that got out of hand.
Yeah.
And, and the other thing is he might have moved them into this cage so that way the people could look at them, so that way he didn't have to go hunting for them in their bigger cage.
Which is also very possible. Like it could, I think, because we don't know exactly where she's at. Because this might be temporary, it might not be.
And look on the right hand side of the
screen.
The white bunny over here. I mean, he's like mounting, and he's like, I'm just gonna be bad bun,
Yeah.
Which caused bunny paws to blister.
Bunny paws, because they have the
bunny
white
paws.
The
to
bunny paws. Now, I will say, hardware cloth is not the proper flooring, and 1x1 is really not. I mean, if this is extremely temporary, you can kind of get by with it because at least he's supporting the hardware cloth, but you really shouldn't use it because that shit's like razor wire, especially if there's any kind of give to it. Because
the edges of it are sharp. It's not like galvanized weld where it's rounded. This is not, that hardware cloth is not rounded, man. It will chew up their feet. Yeah, I agree with that. But the other thing is, rabbits don't have freaking paws. They don't have paw pads.
No.
They have feet. They look, when you take the fur off of their feet, They look like little human hands, you know, and they just have real thick fur on the bottom to help cushion them. Now, hardware cloth like this, because of the sharp edges, will shoot, you know, like saw off the fur that's protecting their feet and will cause them to get sore hawks.
Yeah, sore hawks.
But that is not what proper breeders use.
Yeah, and I
they
doubt
use rounded, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even know if this is a. He's got fucking puppy pads and diapers under him.
Is it pupper pads or is that paper towels? Like you took a whole roll of paper towels and
I think it's
down there.
I think it's freaking Huggies. I can see if we can. It looks like it's diapers.
Is it Huggies?
I think it's Huggies. Look, no, it is. It's Huggies. It's like Huggies or it's like adult diapers.
That's a hell of an idea, though.
I mean, if it works, but he's got puppy pads and Huggies
like
underneath this.
Pack.
Like, yeah.
Like a whole pack of diapers.
I mean, at least it looks like he's been cleaning it pretty often because there's not that much poop there.
Oh yeah, look! I mean, the
So
bowl.
if it's clean.
The bowl is pristine, clean.
Yeah.
The bottle is pristine.
I mean,
and
I'm not
the
thrilled
rabbits
with the
themselves look really clean.
I'm not thrilled with the why. But then again, for all we know, this might be a temporary situation that that's not their yeah. Because that's that. Okay,
They're
if
normal
they were
residents.
if they were living in there, there'd be more poop. I know poop.
Yeah, if they were living in there, there'd be more poop. And that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking that he just put them in there temporarily so that way she could see them.
Why I do
7
that?
months old. So.
Yeah, see, I do that sometimes. Where I'll pull them out and put them in the show carriers if it's going to be easier than running them around and trying to catch them. You know.
Yeah, and
they don't live in a show carrier.
Yeah. Face. I'm digging that white one over here. He's just
a little blue-eyed white.
He's got boss. Yeah, he's got boss energy.
So are you gonna have more for Christmas?
Loaded question. She was mad too. She wanted him to say, "Yeah, I'm totally doing Christmas bunnies." Like, no, I'm not. No.
Yeah, she was leading him. She was trying to lead him into it.
I wanna
Don't you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, I called her out.
You sure? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Documenting people and basically exposing people. Yep, you're caught. Run away, like the coward you are.
What was very interesting from the breeders is that both of them summoned their children to help with
Summon them! I wish I could summon children to help me!
Summon the children. Sounds like trying to put a hex on the rabbits.
Summon their children.
Bunnies are bought for children every day by parents who think it will teach them responsibility, and nothing sells a bunny more than a child selling a bunny.
I don't like selling kids rabbits unless, like I said, they have to be 4-H or FFA and they got to be on board. It's major.
If they're on 4-H and FFA, then they get weekly classes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. If they're 4-H and FFA, okay, cool. As long as you understand this is Rabbit Project, and I'll sit down and walk them through because we did the Rabbit Project. So.
Exactly.
Yep.
I mean, if it's a kid with a 4-H or FFA bunny, they are going to be in a full-on education program. There is no reason to get upset with a 4-H or FFA kid because they are going to be taught every little thing there is to know about rabbits.
Plus,
if it's a kid on the side of the road grabbing one for Easter, that is a big
red
no.
flags there. It's like no.
Yep, screaming red flag.
Yeah.
In order for me to understand this better, I decided I wanted to get inside the mind of a former rabbit breeder.
Pause. This person that's coming up is not a rabbit breeder. This is a person who got 2 lion heads and they bred and got a bunch of bunnies and then the mom's like, well, we got to get rid of them, so let's sell them for a couple of bucks and make back the money for the food that we fed them. I mean, this is not a breeder, and they are conflating this, you know, oh, we got bad circumstances and a couple of rabbits just got out of control, to a breeder.
They were not
a world of difference.
And because they were not purchased for this. Usually, if you're going to go to a breeder, they're doing their research. They have specifically purchased or started it because that was the intent, and this was not the intent.
So,
Yeah, there was no direction with this
when you
girl.
first began breeding bunnies and why?
I started at the age of 15. I did it because my mom bought me 2 baby bunnies. They were lion heads. And obviously, they grew older, and then we didn't care to separate them. We honestly didn't care. My mom didn't care.
We didn't care to separate
Separate 'em.
them.
So
Yeah.
they would obviously.
We chose to be irresponsible, and then there were
We
babies.
chose to be irresponsible.
Yeah.
They have babies. Me and my mom just looked at it like a form of income. Like, hey, we can just sell these baby bunnies and it'll just make us money. That was like our point of view.
How much money would you typically make breeding and selling bunnies?
I would sell a baby bunny for $15. We would post them on Craigslist, but
Okay,
sometimes-
pause.
Mm-hmm.
If you're selling your baby bunnies
Lion
for
heads.
$15, you are not.
Lion heads. Lion heads around here
Okay.
are like 35, 40 minimum.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you're selling your rabbits that cheap, you're showing how inept you are, or you're begging a dog baiter to come and pick up your rabbits.
Or snake.
Value
or,
your rabbits higher, because the simple fact is that if it's cheap, people will grab it. Of course they'll grab it, but those are not the people that you want. And any breeder worth their salt is not going to sell a rabbit for $15 because they put too much time and effort and money themselves into that rabbit. So you aren't going to get a $15 bunny from a reputable breeder.
we didn't get all of them sold. So my
Cute
mom would sometimes have to give away the baby bunnies.
How
Bunnies.
many babies were in those litters, you think?
Right, good night, Pony.
There were up to 10.
Hi, Fiddly. We are reviewing the propaganda film by the House Rabbit Society that came out last week. So we are step-by-stepping it. And I will have this posted on my YouTube channel.
Baby bunnies in each litter that I would breed.
And so you would
Shoot, do lion heads have litters of 10?
Yes.
They will? Because I always thought they were smaller than that.
They are so small. They are so small, but they're like a harlequin. They will
Okay.
pop out a massive litter.
Oh, I had to talk to Rita. Okay.
would sell typically those babies for $15 a piece. So we're looking at about $150 per litter, give or take, right?
If you,
So do you think that $150 was actually worth the time?
It was actually worth the time,
No.
the labor, the money, the care that went into breeding the bunnies.
No.
No, it's not, because if you're breeding rabbits, you aren't making
I
money
wouldn't
off
recommend
of
it for anyone because
I'm lucky when I
They
break
always
even.
try to. They try to put these nefarious connotations on us, like, oh, we're profit-hungry monsters that only want money.
If I break even, I'm
No.
having a good month. If they pay for their food,
Yeah.
I'm having a good month. Because
If they pay for their food and the show fees and the registration fees and, you know, their additives, the water bill, the light bill,
the time, yeah.
your time and effort and the grooming supplies and the gas money and
Upgrading
I mean,
cages, repairs.
upgrading
yeah.
cages, upgrading equipment, medications. I
Yeah.
mean, most professional breeders, or, you know, like full-time breeders in Arba, are not making a profit off of it. Hell, when we win at shows and stuff, except for, I think at nationals, if you get best in show, I think maybe you get a check.
Mhm.
You know, if you're like top 3 spots at nationals, you get a check. The rest of the time, you're getting a $2 rosette. for your,
well, your $7 or $10, your $4 or $7 entry, and how many entries, and
yeah, you're getting a $2 rosette. You aren't doing it for the money. You really aren't.
I think I pulled in probably 2,500 this year, and I've spent 26. So
exactly.
And that's not counting gas, because I didn't factor gas. Because I was thinking about that the other day, going like, oh,
it's absolutely, yeah. It's laughable. It's absolutely laughable. These people think that we're money hungry profit monsters.
No, we do it because we want to improve that breed, because it would be nice to get
we
a
do
rosette.
It fully.
We do it for the $2 rosette.
Yeah, we do it for a $2 rosette.
I can print from China. I get probably 1,000 of them for 50 cents. But yes,
exactly.
Nope. No, I want to be able to say I done good. And it's going to take a while to do that, but
more money actually to take care of them.
Yeah.
Than what we got. My mom never.
Than what we got. See, she just confirms exactly what we said.
To the vet, so some of them did die in the process.
The problem is, even if you take them to the vet, the chances are that
rabbits die in any process.
They die.
Rabbits die in the wild.
Yeah.
Did you ever compromise the health or well-being of the bunnies for the sake of them being purchased? For instance, maybe you sold a bunny prematurely, or
now pause here.
You're an idiot, and you're a bitch. You're an idiot.
When she says what she did, that's a her problem. That's not a breeder problem. That's a her problem.
Yeah, that's.
Age, sex, just to get them.
All right. Well, that is a her. Don't do this. I want to be completely transparent, and I'll hold them back. Like, I got people. Oh, can I get these right now? Like, no, they will not be ready for another 4 weeks, or they will not be ready until, or I'm keeping that one. So people ask about Nestle. Oh, what about this one? No, I'm keeping that one. That one is not for sale. So,
yeah, Nesquik ain't going nowhere.
No, we're keeping cookies.
I like Nesquik.
That one and cookies and cream.
I definitely had to lie to get them sold.
If you have to lie to get lion heads sold,
that's a problem. Lion heads are the most lovable, small, itsy bitsy, cutesy little rabbit you can find.
She's selling them for $15 a pop, and she has to lie to sell them. That means either your rabbits are horrible. There's something's wrong.
Yeah, that's a her problem.
At auction, the lion heads were going for $45 to $50 a pop.
Yeah.
And that was the Amish auction, not even one of the good auctions. Again, we were watching this, and they were, and the other thing that was pissed me off about that is I don't think that they were checking to see the ages. This way, I don't like auctioning if I don't have to. So I'd rather just put them in the freezer. But I've been there when we were looking for goats and sheep, and we watched the rabbit and the chicken sales, and there's one breeder that brings them in at probably 5 or 6 weeks old. Because I've looked at them before, going, that's not an 8-week-old rabbit. It might be a small breed, but that doesn't look right, Or they'll get a lion heads that'll go for everyone else is going for $5 to $8, and the lion heads are going like $35, $40, and that's at the the cheap auction, which means that they're retailing them for more than that if they're picking them up for retail. So that doesn't.
They're selling them for. They'll pick them up for $40 at the auction, and then they'll sell them for $80.
Yeah.
Rabbit that I had was the mom said she was pregnant, and I told my mom.
And that again, that's a bullshit thing, which is why you always
that's her
assume.
Problem. Like the other day you had that male.
Yeah.
Who the sex change fairy got a hold of, ended up in there,
shit.
And you had to.
I had to call people.
Yeah.
I had to call people, being like, I'm just letting you know. We found a surprise boy, so just keep an eye on her in about 3 weeks. And it looks like then I had to call the entire grow out. Yeah.
Yeah, he shot blanks because it was too hot, but still, you are the example of what most breeders do. You will say, "Oh crap, I had a buck in with my does. I am so sorry. If you have babies and you need help, I will walk you through it. I will take them back."
I'll try
you do the right
next
thing.
one because you don't. I mean, again, that's not. This is just what breeders do. We just lie about all of our rabbits, and I sold a pregnant doe without telling them and it's like, if you and your
No.
mom are shit people, you know.
Yeah. Just, I mean, yeah, this is an example of shit people doing shit things. This is not a breeder.
Tell them that she's pregnant, and my mom was like, no, because then she's not gonna want them. So just lie, just give it to her. And I gave them my female rabbit that was pregnant, and they had no idea.
Would you or your mother ever screen the buyers? Would you pay them
25.
visits? Did you know what kind of environment?
Pay them home visits. Do you know what kind of environments the bunnies were going to?
Well, honestly,
That's a her problem. Again,
to know if they
that's
were-
something that we don't do.
I know that's sad, but that's the truth.
It didn't seem like you had a lot of control over everything in the beginning. I mean, you were young, you were a child, and you were really under your mom's wing. And that's something that I see a lot. It's usually the parents kind of leading the way.
Parents are evil too, by the way. You know,
Yeah.
evil parents, evil, money hungry, evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but yeah, that is a total her and her mom problem. That is not what she does not represent breeders. She found the
I don't know where
most
Waldorf went.
extreme,
Yeah, no, she.
half-assed example that she could.
And again, because I'm pretty sure chat shows up when I post this to YouTube. But yeah, no, Fiddly purchased 3 of my buns, and she spoils the crap out of them, and I get like daily updates almost. So yeah, no, we definitely know where Waldorf went, which is good because Kranitz, that was his baby. He that was his first litter that he basically said I wasn't allowed to butcher them, and we ended up he kept an entire litter. Food for him.
The Salad Brothers.
The Salad Brothers. So yeah, so Waldorf was the last of the Salad Brothers to head off, and he is being spoiled immensely. So.
Decide to stop. What was ultimately the last straw?
It happened when it was one of the last litters. My mom decided to give my cousin a baby bunny, and I started crying because I already knew that
Pause.
they weren't gonna.
If you're crying and you know something is going to screw up, that's a you problem. Again, if you get a bad gut feeling and you don't want to give that rabbit away, you should not give that rabbit away.
No.
I mean, that's common sense. That is pure common sense. And you're telling me that, I mean, you knew what was going to happen to that rabbit and you let them go. That is a you problem. That is not representative of good, reputable breeders.
Take care of it right. And they literally took it in a cardboard box, and that's where they decided to keep the baby bunny. My mom told me a week later, did you know that your cousin killed the baby bunny? He took the bunny into his bed, and he fell asleep, and he slept on top of the baby bunny.
Oh,
And
God.
it died. And that's when I just started bawling, and I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I, like, having these poor animals suffer all because of me? And that's when I told my mom, like, this is done. Like,
So you caught a conscience and now you decided to, go to the dark side.
Yeah, we need to.
The breeders, let them know the extent of the problem.
Talk to breeders. These are not breeders.
No, these are not breeders.
We have in finding homes for all these.
Well, then feed them to the dogs! It's your meat! It's your livestock!
Unwanted rabbits.
Yeah, I know.
And also,
Feet. If you have a problem with them,
how
get rid of
people
them.
live
It's not that hard.
in order for them to be wonderful companion animals in your home. It's
So they want you to spend $300 to $800 on a surgery that has a 70% chance of killing the rabbit, and you're not going to get that money back. And the things they're asking for are just just like
Yep, you're gonna spend $300 to $800. Your rabbit's probably gonna die on the table, and you aren't gonna get a dime of that money back. And then you're gonna have a whole bunch of heartbreak because you're doing what you're told to do, and it was wrong.
It's all tied together.
When people get dogs and cats, it's like a no-brainer. You know, like, oh yeah, I gotta get them spayed or neutered. You don't think that automatically with a rabbit.
Pause. Because cats and dogs don't routinely die on the table when they get fucking spayed or neutered.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would take to get rabbits to that level of mainstream knowledge
You think mainstream knowledge. They're livestock. Rabbits are livestock.
I'm hoping that Lennon.
Rabbits are livestock.
I'm hoping Lennon will help because Lennon is our little spokes bunny that, you know, we're using for this propaganda film. Her whole channel's for. I guarantee you she's on payroll.
Hey, isn't Lennon on one of the posts for House Rabbit Society?
Yes, yes, because that's their spokes bunny. That's where. Oh, go to Lennon the bunny. Because and this one, she's like, oh, if they're not free roaming in your house, you're evil. Like.
Oh, she put a flower crown on it. A boost.
It's on the beach.
Social media, yeah.
Uh-huh. Again, Rabbit Island,
and
Japan.
Rabbit Island again.
Much higher reproductive rate.
It's harder to dump a bunny that's been adopted. You can always take it back to the rescue. But people who buy the bunnies, and you know, after the novelty wears off, at Christmas and Easter, you know, those bunnies tend to wind up.
If they come from a pet store, but if you get them straight from a responsible breeder, that breeder's going to take it back. So,
the breeder will take it back.
What happens with the rescue groups, the rabbit rescue groups, is they are really good at educating and screening the adopters.
And so are responsible breeders.
Yeah.
That's why, you know, the people are a little less likely to be abandoning those rabbits if they're, you know, if it's not working out. They're a little bit more likely to know that, you know, hey, when they adopt this rabbit, it's a lifelong commitment. And if they're not ready for that, then the rescue group isn't going to give them the money. And the rabbits...
And neither is a responsible breeder.
Yeah. It's going to be healthier.
I love this. It's going to be healthier. It's going to be... Not necessarily, because it's going to have genetic issues if it's been dumped and came from a bad situation.
If it's a rescue, a lot of times rescues have health problems. They come in sick.
Because they've already had them examined, spayed and neutered, treated for fleas and mites.
How do we combat those other categories?
You don't.
Here we go. Folks, I want you to listen very carefully. Here's where the little propaganda nuggets keep getting dropped. So this is where they're talking about completely doing away with pet rabbits altogether. And they're also talking about how they, you know, these are their little nuggets of wisdom. They sprinkle in there like little bits of glitter. And hoping that you don't catch on that this is a propaganda film. This is a propaganda film.
I think that the only way that you can combat some of this is with legislative change.
Legislative change.
Combination.
And activism.
Is for people to go to their representatives in the government and
go to their representatives in the government and get fines put on breeding.
So that you must have a
that was not a Freudian slip. That's what they want.
You have to have a license.
Must have a license.
Yeah.
Or a rabbit coat.
We don't need to wear a rabbit coat. It's very warm and fluffy.
And I think we're making some progress. A lot of major designers are no longer selling fur. That's great. Harder to combat.
Pause. The reason they aren't selling fur is because so many ARAs have complained and moaned to the point where they're making it illegal to sell fur in different jurisdictions, and so it is cheaper and it is less trouble on those companies to avoid all the local, like in parts of California you can't sell fur, okay? They don't want to have to make a totally different line for California than they do for Texas. And so they don't sell the fur because it's just cheaper to do it that way.
Look at these amazing...
And it has nothing to do with whether they want to or not, because trust me, 2 years before that law went into place, every single one of them had fur in their collections.
Mm-hmm. And here we have an example of the largest meat rabbit I've ever seen.
My God, I know. That's not
pork.
even a rabbit.
No, it's like, I think it's pork. It looks like pork.
That's a pig.
Yeah.
It's a frickin' pig. Misleading. And look at the size of that knife.
Yeah.
We're finding out that for all sorts of reasons, it's better that humans not eat as much meat.
That's not really true either.
Pause. There's the vegan nugget.
That's
There's
not
the
true.
Vegan propaganda nugget.
Yeah, there's another propaganda nugget.
As an argument.
We did have a time a few years back when the bunny community really stepped up and talked out against rabbits as meat. They were selling rabbit meat.
Here's a propaganda nugget. Okay, pause.
Yeah.
Remember how House Rabbit Society is under IRS investigation?
Mm-hmm.
This right here, the Whole Foods thing, House Rabbit Society was there handing out pamphlets and stuff as part of this protest group.
Mm-hmm.
So they were doing
lobbying and propaganda.
Political activism. Yeah, political activism while being a 501(c)(3).
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which you're not allowed to do. You're either a
You're
charity
not allowed to
or
do.
yeah, you're either a charity or you're a 501. I think it's like C4 or C1 or whatever it is, but you're which is a political group. So.
Yep.
Whole Foods here, and they picketed and they wrote about it and they yelled about it for almost 2 years, and they got it stopped. So it can be stopped.
What I'm dealing with is a small percentage of rabbits. My organization is a chapter of House Rabbit Society. We deal with companion rabbits.
Chapter of House Rabbit Society. Boom. Pause.
Yeah.
Every single source in this thing is House Rabbit Society.
Yeah.
And people don't believe that they infiltrate everything.
Educate people on their care and try to save as many as possible of the rabbits that are abandoned in animal shelters. There are organizations that are making some strides in stopping, for example, laboratory experiments. There's a branch of the Humane Society of the United States that works.
Humane Society of the United States, which is populated by PETA members who are part of the Humane Society of the United States is entirely populated by a board of people who are PETA members.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're an animal rights organization wing of PETA.
Creating laboratory substitutes so that there's no need for
Laboratory substitutes that do not work and do not work in vivo.
rabbits to find cures for human diseases. That we're so different.
Why do you think rabbits are relinquished? so
Just
often?
because we're different species doesn't mean we don't have the same body
They're
systems.
animals that require expensive health care.
Well, didn't we discuss that whole expensive healthcare thing? Is 99.99% of rabbit treatments are over the counter, and if you know what you're looking for, if you know what you're looking for, you can treat it at home real easily. You don't actually need to go. In fact, if anything, take him to the vet. Vet's going to overload him on because most vets are not trained exotics, and they are going to overload them on something that they would give a dog or a cat or what they think might work that is going to damage the rabbit or make it worse.
Or completely ruin their guts.
Yeah.
You know, like antibiotics. They always overdose antibiotics.
And 9 times out of 10, they don't need, or at least not oral, because that's the other thing. They always go for oral. Even the big dog, even the big dog downstairs. The last couple times we've taken him in, they're like, "Oh, here, amoxicillin or whatever, oral." And I'm like, you know what? I'm not taking him in this time. I'm going to get some Pen G.
Like,
I got Pen G.
You can give a rabbit Pen G as long as it's injectable.
Yeah, and so
you get oral Pen G.
It'll kill their gut.
Yeah. It'll kill their gut. They'll get diarrhea and they'll die.
So they were giving him the oral meds. It's the giant schnauzer, and I finally just gave up, going like, you know what? No, I'm just going to give him the straight up. The oral meds had not worked. We had him on 4 or 5 rounds, and all it did was give him diarrhea or give him gut issues. So
and
this
it barely ever. It's such a big molecule that it doesn't pass through the gut barrier.
It
It's
doesn't
easier
absorb
to
it.
bypass that.
So I started.
It's easier to bypass that.
I ended up just this go around. I did a 15-day run of there was 1 or 2 cc's Pen G for 15 days every day, and that infection, that nail bed infection that he's had on and off for the past 2 years, that completely cleared up. And I'm
went away.
I should have just been, because that was my gut feeling to begin with, was I should just be giving him the injections on my own because that's going to work. So
yeah. Yep, it bypassed that, went through the bloodstream, and was able to get to the damaged tissues and correct that infection that he had going.
And I think it's fine. It's finally over because it was just anyway. Yeah,
It can be messy if they're not spayed
We
and neutered.
digress.
they can be messy if they're not spayed and neutered. They're going to be messy Period.
They're going to be messy, regardless. They're going to chew on crap. They're going to spray. And even if they're neutered, don't tell me that a neutered rabbit can't spray, because they certainly can.
The
They
does
do that
do.
as a territorial response.
Yeah.
It is a territorial response. And they do it whether they're neutered or not.
And girls can also throw pee. I found that one out the hard way.
Yep.
They don't care.
They do that
If
when they're
messy,
mad.
People don't want
Yep.
that. They have no voice. They're voiceless little creatures.
Poor little.
Female rabbits, they have such an extremely high chance of uterine cancer.
If you don't breed
They
them.
have an extremely high chance of uterine cancer.
Pretty much happens in 80 to 90%.
No, it does not. Again, this is back to that study that they keep quoting that was done on, I think it was 15 or something, lab-bred rabbits. That wasn't even it's a shitty study, and it was done in like 60s or 70s.
It's a study that involved a captive cell line. So what they do with a captive cell line is that the animals are bred with a cell line in them to produce a result, and that result is often some sort of ailment that you would find in a human, be it cancer or liver problems or something, that the animal has a terminal disease programmed into their DNA, so that way they have basically a micro sort of what might happen with their chemical or whatever treatment they're trying to use to see if it'll work. They do it with lab rats and stuff. In fact, there is it was a African American lady's cervical cancer cells that are cloned repeatedly, and they have been implanted into lines of rabbits and lines of rats to help treat and create vaccines for cervical cancer and things of that nature. So, I mean, these rabbits that were in this study were terminal genetics rabbits already. So they were going to get cancer. And so that's the reason 80 to 90% of them had ended up with cancer, is because they were bred to do that.
Yep.
Of the female rabbits. And it can happen anywhere between 3 to 5 years of age.
I would be seeing that more. I really would be. I've had over probably 1,000 rabbits since we started, and that would.
I've had maiden does make it to 12 years old with no problems, and I'm not talking about one or two. I'm talking about I've had maiden does that I never bred because they didn't meet my standards, but I had the cage space to hold them for the remainder of their life, so they had a comfy life. But I've had maiden does. They were born, at least 15 or 20 of them, okay? I'm not talking about one or two. I'm talking about 15 or 20 of them, where they were never bred. They lived till 12, 13 years old, and they passed peacefully of old age.
So if you're breed your rabbit until it's 2 or 3 or 4, you are risking its life.
That's just it. If you're a proper breeder, you aren't going to be breeding this rabbit when it's 2 or 3 or 4 years old.
By the time it's 2 or 3,
it will be bred within the first 2 years of its life.
Yep.
And then it will be retired out in either culled or sold on.
I was looking over my rotation, and they're normally retired or petted out by the time they're 3. I mean,
exactly.
With the exception of 1 or 2 that are demand to be bred, or they're going to be complete bitches. But for the most part, they're done by the time they're 5. And if they find I think Jasmine still has a very nice pet home up in Indy. Then she was retired. She was like 5.5, and she's probably 8 or 9 now. So, if they're good girls, we're gonna go try to find a spoiled home for them. But,
yeah, a good home for them. If we're keeping them for breeding, they're good enough to be kept as pets.
Well, and that thing is, you don't wait 3 to 5 years to breed them anyway, because it's very hard for them to start breeding by the time they get that old or fat. So usually, it's 8. For me, it's 8 at 8. It's when they hit 8 pounds, 80% of their adult weight, which for the New Zealanders is approximately 8 pounds, or 8 months old. So usually their first breeding is 8 months old. Now I've had a couple that we bred as early as 4 because they were like, well, you see like Maya, she's like massive. They hit that 8 pound mark quick. So we'll go ahead and start them early if they're ready to go. But they're under a year old when they're bred the first time. You don't wait.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't usually wait.
You
much
don't wait
longer.
like that. Yeah, a true breeder is not going to wait like that. That rabbit will be bred early, and then it will do its thing, and then when it's done, it will be moved on to a pet home, or it'll be cold. One of the two.
We've had one or two we've eaten because they were complete bitches, but usually they're good girls. So
Waste not, want not.
she killed 2 litters. That was the end of that one. So
Cancer. It could even get a bleeding, ruptured aneurysm in its uterus.
Isn't an aneurysm?
Yeah, because it's not being bred, and it's genetically programmed to breed.
Die within a few days. So you're risking death just for them to have a litter. You might say, oh well, I have a rabbit that's just like my rabbit. And
Man, if I had $1 for every rabbit, I mean, I would have just had rabbits dropping left, right, and center if I didn't. I'm sorry. This makes me want to
People
laugh.
are always surprised to see Lennon living free roam like a dog or a cat, when they visit me. They can't believe a rabbit lives there. I guess because they're livestock that they,
because they are livestock.
expect to see them in like a barn environment.
They're livestock.
Because they're livestock.
Yeah, and not like living this metropolitan life. That's why I'm passionate about spreading that imagery so that I can hopefully convert some minds and some hearts.
You have.
I hope so.
There is the argument that
Well, Fiddly's got 3 of my breeders, and they're in the house half the time being spoiled. Like, well, I don't know if you saw this. Marion's got to the point where she bruxes for Fiddly Foo. And so she'll sit there and just purr. And then she will cuddle up on the bed, and then she'll brux a little more, and then she will pee on the bed because she has marked it, and that is hers now. So
it is mine. I must own it.
This is mine now. But she also just had a really cute litter, so they're in, and they're being very sweet.
Oh.
So, and then Walter.
Look at the crazy face. I'm sorry, but the crazy faces
and they are
distracting me.
providing their bunnies with proper care.
They're providing their bunnies with proper care and promoting
What are your thoughts
proper, yeah.
Uh-huh.
What are your thoughts on a good breeder versus a bad breeder?
knowledge that you had gained
Uh-huh, that we've been indoctrinated into.
breeding, but doing so with the proper care?
If I'm being completely honest, I don't think there's
Uh-huh.
any definition of a good breeder.
We're gonna go back over to the RBA footage. There you go.
I feel
Oh my god. This is coming from the worst possible example of a backyard breeder
Yeah.
that you could possibly find. This is coming from an expert.
Yeah. That's okay. They're all
Sorry.
they're all experts because bunnies have paw pads and everything else. 'Cause,
Oh my god, it makes me want to laugh. It's so stupid.
I personally will never.
it's terrible to force them to have kids. They're not.
Force these rabbits to have kids. I'm sorry, you put 2 rabbits together and you didn't force them to do nothing. They just did their thing.
Well, if she wants to do it, she's gonna do it. Like I told you about Beanie. Beanie decided she did not like Azathoth, but Beanie was like, "Oh yes, I will go for stereo. I like him.
I will love the
I
stereo.
will love the stereo.
Turn the stereo up.
And then Lord, it's like kids. Since I don't know of many rabbits that have had goats.
Like she's like, oh, well, you're forcing them to have kids. Yeah, honey, you just disproved yourself with your own story. You stuck 2 rabbits together and they loved each other.
Yeah.
And they had the babies.
Mm-hmm.
Never do it again. I hope nobody ever does because there's enough. There's enough rabbits
I hope no one ever breeds ever again because pets are evil.
and bunnies in this world, and
Yep.
I don't agree on it anymore.
What do you say to those who argue
Mhm.
that there are good breeders who treat their rabbits humanely and sell them to good homes?
I would wonder if they are taking back all of the rabbits.
Yeah,
Taking back all of the rabbits.
yeah, we do.
Yep.
Yeah.
A good breeder, a good breeder has a return policy and a return contract on every rabbit they send out.
That people get tired of and no longer want. Are they taking back?
These are wild, aren't they? Well, those are domestics.
When
Yeah, they got dumped.
buy a rabbit from them and say, "Oh, this is too much work. I didn't realize what was involved." Do you feel good about selling an animal when there are rabbits that are being put to sleep in animal shelters.
I don't feel bad about animals being put to sleep in animal shelters. If there's an overpopulation, I'm sorry, but euthanasia is a good thing. I really don't. They have yes, there's an overpopulation of dogs and an overpopulation of cats. There really is not an overpopulation of bunnies. There really isn't. But they're trying to make it seem like there is.
By breeding when we have so many that don't have homes. Why create more rabbits when, if you stopped breeding tomorrow, we wouldn't find homes for all the young ones?
Because they're delicious. But anyway.
There's just too many rabbits.
There's the argument that, well, if everybody just stopped breeding, there would be no more bunnies. Therefore,
yes.
Stop breeding, there'd be no more bunnies. Therefore,
breeders need to exist. What are your thoughts on this?
Need to exist. What are your thoughts on this?
I think
Do they need to exist?
But there are good and bad
I don't think so. I think it's a bad idea. See, there's your other propaganda nugget.
And it just doesn't make sense to be breeding.
There's more bad breeders than good breeders. Because
wrong.
Animals, they are dying in the numbers like 3 million a year.
Again, where are you getting
citation needed?
Yeah, citation needed.
Being euthanized. If we're going to have breeders, then they should be and need to be regulated.
And he's back at the rescue. Why? Because the person got pet.
60 bunnies, spayed and neutered them, got them.
And pause for a second. And these kinds of rescues always do this kind of thing, where if you get a dog or something and the rabbit can't free roam around the house like they want you to do, they'll take it back. They'll force you to give it back. It's not the person surrendering it to them. They'll say that the person surrendered it to them, but that's crap. They will people to give up that animal because it can't do exactly what the rescue wants it to do, which is free roam around the house.
It was Oscar. He was very badly injured. His ears were in strings and his body was abscessed, and he was in a home for 2 years, and then this week, 2 years later, he's returned because the family got other pets. Yeah, it's super sad. Super sad.
This is the reality of breeding.
What did that have to do with the breeder? They got a dog or a cat or something that was harassing the rabbit. Now, again, if you really need to, give the bunny its own room, put the bunny up in a safe area. They have proper cages for that. You can keep him up so he's safe. You put your dog in a crate and let the bunny free roam, get some exercise. If that, you do crate and rotate. I used to do fostering with my schnauzers, and sometimes you would get a new foster in that you couldn't trust around the other ones necessarily, so you would do crate and rotate. And you would give them a hour time out, and then you'd open and you let the other one run around, and then you just kind of rotate them out every couple hours so that there was no risk of them getting in fights. So I don't know.
Oh God! I know.
Muzzle the dog.
Just...
Oh my God! I've had to do that with not Bernie, but probably because when I've had the rabbits in the house, it's just safer that way. It's like, okay, Bernie, you're being too much here. Muzzle, done. Rabbit's safe for the time being. Comes off when the bunny's back outside. So
whether it is hoarding, accidental, purposeful. This is what I feel the breeders don't really understand. This is the dark truth about what happens when you put more rabbits out there in the world. I think because they're small and they're silent.
Voiceless. No meow, no bark.
So far, all I heard from that rescue shelter is that she got a bunch of lab rabbits.
Yeah.
And some rabbits from a hoarder. I didn't hear nothing
about
breeder. An arbor breeder.
Nope.
Yeah.
They can't talk to you. We have to talk for them. Dogs can bark at you and cats can meow, and bunnies have nothing.
Rabbits scream.
They need
rabbits bark.
They'll honk. They'll tell you if they're mad.
Oh yeah.
most tragic consequences of breeding domestic rabbits is not so much that these unwanted rabbits may wind up at the shelter or rescues. That is a best case scenario. In fact, it is that many of them are dumped on the street, in parks, in garbage cans, forced to face starvation, or their brutal death.
Oh my God, it is a picture of a hawk hawking.
Yeah, they do that.
That was a dead rabbit being fed to a hawk while it was hawking.
Mm-hmm. But, you know, they also want to let them... By the way, the worst outbreaks of our RHVD2 that have happened in the past couple months have been at rescues, and the worst people that have spread them have been the rescues, because they're not practicing biosecurity, and they're not keeping up with it. You know, they're...
and the way that they had the rabbits all loose running around, they just spread it to each other over and over again, and... You know, you might get one that survives it, but it didn't get a big enough dose of the virus, and so it just goes back, and it spreads it back, and they just feed back and forth. Whereas in a cage situation,
you can stop it.
You can practice proper, you know, biosecurity, and you can stop that whole process.
Conflate them with wild rabbits, but domestic rabbits cannot survive in the wild.
Nope, they can't.
Rabbits are not toys, commodities, they're not Easter gifts, they're not disposable. They're smart, loving animals with real feelings, each with unique personalities.
Pause. There was another little propaganda nugget in there that they snuck in there just to sort of hide it, but rabbits are not commodities. In other words, they're not meat and fur.
The truth is that very few rabbits get lucky. The night I brought Lennon home, she got lucky. But then, there are the rabbits, like Oscar, that never find home.
Oh, let's get some money for the rescues with this sob story. And the whole adopt don't shop bullshit. Oh my God.
There's no credits for this either. Like there's no there's nothing.
She doesn't credit anybody.
Yeah, she doesn't credit anything.
The only people that she thanks are the House Rabbit Society people, and that's in the description box.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, this whole thing was just one. It was a 28-minute and 36-second advertisement for the House Rabbit Society and the House Rabbit Society's views on breeders.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
So we just get straight up propaganda.
Straight up propaganda.
There's no counter argument. I mean, if you want to do a documentary, you better be interviewing American Rabbit Breeders Association. Well, how are we going to get the breeders to understand their breeder? Like, have you talked to the house? Have you talked to?
You want to know what probably happened? If she did call Arba,
they probably turned.
Or she did call.
Fuck you.
They probably told her to screw off in no uncertain terms.
Yeah.
And that she was writing a hit piece, and they weren't going to have no part of it.
Yep. Let me see if I can figure out which one this is from, because they did the RHVD update. I'm trying to remember which episode, which article, which episode that was from. Okay, it was two back, I think, because they have these. My mouse go. I have all the bunny magazines from this year, so. Because I was looking, because they were tracking the RHVD2, and there was like 2 whole articles in here that were like the rescues are like, when this is what happened, and I'm like, well, but these are good, and this is okay for those of you that want to actually learn stuff. I'm gonna move my camera so you guys can actually see this. Okay, so This is Domestic Rabbits Magazine. When you join the American Rabbit Breeders Association, you get these bi-monthly, and these are awesome. So they do a vet, like you get a vet corner. Every thing. This one was just ocular. So there's color pictures and charts to kind of help ID different eye issues, and they kind of give you a walkthrough. Oh, here's the update. Opportunities for transmission direct contact. Because by the way, and if you are in Ohio, and I believe Indiana is going to be able to get the bunny vaccine shortly. They just announced that like last week, so that they haven't said exactly when or how much it's going to cost or what the requirements are going to be, but we're supposed to finally have that open to our state. And Ohio, I think, opened at the beginning of the month, so they were able to do that. So we can get it.
The vaccine rolling out now.
Yeah, so they've had a vaccine, but it was only under emergency directives in order to import it, and they were doing it by outbreak states. And because they just had that issue up in Minnesota, and they don't know where exactly it came from. Although the assumption is that
the Midwest hasn't been that bad, but I know that California and the whole West Coast been hit really hard.
Well, I don't know if I showed you, but there was that death transport where this woman who was refusing to quarantine or doing anything, and I'd have to go pull up to see exactly who it was, but if you look at her transport and then you look at where the new outbreaks were, it is exactly along her transport route. And so we think she single-handedly spread it to like eight states. So yeah, that was not cool. And then the one that was just in Minnesota was actually a veterinarian whose 2 house rabbits died of it. And they're like, well, we don't know where the vector is. And so the only thing that a lot of us were brainstorming could think is that either fresh vegetables that might have been carrying it from out west, because a lot of these people, they feed fresh veg.
Yeah.
And you can't just wash this stuff off, or and
well, the other thing is that wild rabbits will go into the field, because in California is a huge producer of a lot of the produce for America.
And especially this time of year.
You get wild rabbits that run out into the field, and they're nibbling on the plants, and there's, this whole organic produce thing now has become a thing, and so they aren't killing off the pests in the fields like they used to, and so it's spreading.
Yeah.
The wild rabbits get it onto the produce. The produce goes to the house funds, and then the house funds spread it through the rest.
Yep. And then so and then hay. They actually traced it down to the hay in one rabbitry. It knocked out the entire rabbitry. It was like 100 rabbits, and they think it actually came in on the hay.
Oh God.
So I'm looking. I was trying to look for the article.
Well, you know what?
Bunch here.
If there's a rabbit in the field that happens to have it, and then they bale the hay, and that happens to get chopped up in the hay baler, and that blood gets spread all over the hay.
Yep. Yeah, here. Okay, so this was from the March-April edition. This is the for the March-April outbreak map, and they did a case-by-case study. And so we have one is mosquitoes, mosquito issues, because the mosquitoes will pass it. So if you get a mosquito issue, you're gonna you risk it. All right, so I'm trying to see. So, and that's just because it, again, it's colony. They had them loose.
It's a colony.
Yeah, it's a colony. Because it says element. This is from the ARBA, one of our magazines, And this was the case study happening back in January. It says Ellen manages a nonprofit rescue in Southern California. The animal and rabbit rescue provides an outside colony living arrangement so rabbits can free roam into cages out in and out as they wish. When RH-DV2 outbreak began, there were 15 rabbits of various breeds in the colony, and as soon as the problem was recognized, the remaining live rabbits were captured and separated. So all feeding bowls, they were gathered, disinfected. When asked if she had any idea how the virus got into the facility, she responded with, "We have no idea how it infected the rescue. They're in a rural area with no cited deaths of wild rabbits, and we had not taken in a rabbit for over 3 months." So, and again, they were saying, "Hey, our colony is fenced in, has larger outdoor fence with dogs and cats. We never see wild rabbits." It goes, "Our hay we feed the farm animals and the rabbits is Bermuda grass, grown and baled in Parker, Arizona." So possibly from the hay.
Probably.
Yeah. So that, and
because Parker, Arizona, because I know Arizona well. Parker has a real bad problem with cottontails getting in the hay fields.
Yep. Yeah. So Colorado, Arizona. Betty attempted to protect. So early summer 2020, there was an outbreak in Arizona. So if their hay came from Arizona, that's definitely possible. And if people aren't already on it, there's actually there is a couple Facebook groups that we're following that's keeping tight look at stuff.
Like a contact trace on it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, I'll link you to the group because we're there. That's kind of the go-to info that we're going in right now. Is the hang on a second. Let me see if I can just pull it up. Basse bouquet. Cranence is going to be okay, buddy.
Yeah, it'll be alright. I went through my own stuff here recently.
Well, I might just go check the bunnies.
I had to sell my house and everything else.
Yeah. I might... Okay, North American group. Yeah, this is the one I'm in. So here, I'll send you I'm going to put this in the chat real quick. So if you guys aren't... this is a good group to join. Which, of course, if you mention the word virus, Facebook will automatically assume you're talking about the coronas. So, pop-ups everywhere.
No.
If you mention the word vaccine, virus, anything, you get all the, like, now this is about the vaccine. It's like, no, we're talking about the bunnies. Go away.
Bunnies. Wrong virus, people.
Wrong virus. So MedGene Labs receives emergency use authorization for RHDV2 vaccine. So, and then, let me see. That is for, was that Utah or Ohio? I know Ohio, I think, just was able to get it. The only problem I have, what I'm afraid is going to happen, is they're going to require a vet visit instead of just letting us get, like, vials. Because if they're going to require a vet visit, the vets are always like, oh yeah, it'll be $50 a rabbit plus the cost of the vaccine, which is not going to be cheap.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't have $2,000, $3,000 to get them all done. I just don't.
Yeah.
So,
to vaccinate the whole herd.
You know, which it would be nice if they did, like, apparently Mexico, did you know Mexico pushed like a free-for-all? They vaccinated something like 300,000 rabbits for free just to control it.
Really?
Yeah. Public health in Mexico.
Tijuana.
Yeah, exactly. Because we were reading that the other day, and it's like, yeah, well, they made sure that everyone was covered. So anyone that had a pet rabbit or outdoor or commercial rabbitry, the government in Mexico paid for the vaccine, and they vaccinated all the rabbits.
That'd be funny. Just thinking, being like, what are all these rabbits for? And I'm like, I'm taking them to the slaughterhouse in Mexico.
So as of October 10th, vaccinating pregnant and nursing does, there's a full study on the safety of nursing and pregnant does has not yet been completed. They've done more study on the rabbit vaccine for the rabbit safety than they've done on the COVID vaccines. Just saying.
I know.
Yeah.
Isn't that sad?
It is.
That's really sad. That rabbits get better research.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to know what? With the corona vaccine, you know what that came from, right?
I'm not going to get too deep into it while we're live, but,
Yeah. That came from a cat vaccine for feline coronavirus.
You know, that I can buy that at Tractor Supply in Royal King. Because I was looking at it the other day, too. I'm like, oh, that's right. I've given the coronavax to my animals before, because there is one.
Yeah, there is one, and they based the research off of the feline, because that one medication, that experimental medication that they were using on the people in Washington State when it first broke out,
Mm-hmm.
it was actually a medication that was being used by cat rescues for cats with
Clavamox?
with feline infectious peritonitis.
Was it Clavamox?
From feline coronavirus.
Was it Clavamox?
Huh?
Was it Clavamox? I would
no,
die if it was.
Remdesivir.
Okay.
Remdesivir. They used to buy it in, the Remdesivir. They used to buy it in big old packs, and they would use it at cat rescues.
Huh. That's interesting. That's interesting. All right. Well, I don't want to get too deep into, the cross things. I could go 3 hours on Ivermectin and the ins and outs of why you shouldn't take oral horse wormer, and reason that there's actually human grade, and the difference between the 1% solution injectable and the Poron, but that's a whole
and the
nother...
Poron and all that.
Well, wait, I actually, no, it's okay. I can talk about Ivermectin if we're talking about rabbits, because it goes back to the whole ear mite treatment thing. And then also, I really need to get April in here, because she's not understanding. She's trying to treat a rabbit for EC, but someone told her Ivermectin, and I keep telling her it's not Ivermectin, it's it's Safeguards, the Fenzer ball. It's the other one, the Penacure.
Yeah,
I'm like, don't...
Benzidol.
Fenbenzibenzibenzib. I can't pronounce the scientific names for any of this shit.
The Fenbenzo. Yeah.
Safeguard.
The Fenbenzidol or something.
It's Safeguard. The Safeguard / Panacure. And so I keep telling her, it's like, no, get the liquid goat wormer 2 cc's to your rabbit daily 30 days. Because that's the EC treatment. And somehow reason she has it in her head, it's Ivermectin. I'm like, no, Ivermectin is for mites and for some intestinal worms, but it's not going to treat EC.
For worms.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
EC is a different parasite.
If you've got worms, or if you've got mites, you use the Ivermectin, but use Panacure for EC, because it's going to kill the little tiny, protozoas.
Okay.
It'll kill those little itty bitty protozoas.
Yeah, so that was like trying to, explain, trying to explain that. It's like, no, it's not all the same meds, but that's the thing. These are all mostly over the counter anyway. So if you know what you're dosing, like, and it was the same thing. Like, I'm okay using the topical Ivermectin if it's on the back of the neck. If it's going in the ear, I'm using the injectable. And then I'm trying to remember. Yeah, this doesn't have the alcohol. Yeah. And then I've had then that goes back to that whole discussion with the whole ear mites thing, where people are like, oh, just pour peroxide in the ear. And I'm like, no.
Oh, God, no.
God, no. Because they're like, no, that has literally, there was someone that had mentioned it, and I was reading over on I think it was Rabbits for Sustenance and shit, which is my favorite Facebook group. And someone's like, yeah, our vet or whoever told us to pour that or alcohol in the ear, and the rabbit screamed and had a heart attack and died. And they're like, no.
Because it's painful.
Because, yeah, it's just, you're like, you wouldn't, it's like pouring alcohol on a cut hurts.
There are people that are trying to use Ivermectin, right? And they're using the Poron, and they're supposed to, because Ivermectin is a systemic product. It goes in the body, it sinks into the body, and then it runs through the bloodstream, and it'll stay latent in the bloodstream for 30 days, and then it works its way out.
Hence the reason why I can't get corona. I am soaked in Ivermectin and antivirals, apparently. I've been marinating in it for 10 years now, so, yeah.
Yeah, just like they used 8 cc's of Poron on this rabbit, and wonder why it OD'd.
Yeah, I think
like
one's...
eight.
I think one's like 1 or 2 is like granted, they have a very high Ivermectin is very well received, and it has a pretty high tolerance. I think I think that the heartworm.
Except for in dogs.
Yeah, like
except for in certain breeds of dogs, I think MDR one.
Yes, yeah, because and that would be Australian Shepherds and a couple other breeds. That I think a lot of them are herding breeds and some that carry Merrill because it was bred in from
collies.
Collies.
Yeah. Collies.
That accident actually killed my friend's. It killed my friend's show dog because the vet had switched the heartworm medication and didn't inform her that it was an ivermectin based one without researching it, and she didn't realize it. And it went to
MDR one.
Caesar's dead. It was awful. I felt so bad for her. It was a beautiful, beautiful Aussie.
And that's just it. A lot of vets were not even 10 years ago. A lot of vets were not aware about the MDR1 gene.
Yeah.
And so they were wondering why these dogs were not tolerating his medications. But yeah, ivermectin in rabbits is extremely well tolerated, and they can take a high dose. But 8 full cc's of boron that they allowed to absorb into this rabbit system.
Well, that's 800% the dose, roughly. Which is the dosage for the heartworm treatment for the dogs. That's why they scream so bad, because they're pumping like it's like 12 or 15 cc's into their back to kill for the heart. That's why you can't move them for a month, because the worms break down inside the heart and you have to keep it calm. Because I've had to do the heartworm treatments with a couple of shelter dogs coming through. We were the interim foster home for their recovery. But yeah, but even then, even at that doses, it's not the ivermectin that will kill them. It's if they get a blood clot, if they get a clot from the worms dying. So, it's
from the worms dying. Yeah.
But yeah, it's actually.
And that's just it. I mean. Are you there?
I'm here. I'm waiting to finish.
Okay. Sorry, it was falling apart. The sound there for a second. But yeah, no, that with that ivermectin though, rabbits tolerate like huge amounts of it. But I mean, 8 full cc's of boron, and then it soaked into the rabbit system and it seized out and died. I'm like, yeah, you overdosed that poor bunny, and like literally a drop. A drop would have been sufficient.
Well, poron's what, 3% solution? I think I'd go pull it, but I think the poron's actually 3% because the injectable is 1%. I think the poron's a higher percentage because it's topical. I felt bad for Caramel Sunday, because when I went to do one little squirt, the stupid syringe went up, and I think he got like a full, like half a cc in the ear, and I'm like, whoops, it's more than you're supposed to get.
Oh, well, hey.
It cleared it up real quick. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Works.
Like Bunny. You got you a good dose there. You don't need no more.
So angry. He's still kind of mad at me. I'm like, I'm sorry. He's like, your ears are clean now.
Well, he was greasy too. I bet he had it. I bet his stool was pretty runny there for a minute because he was so greasy. He probably groomed that oil off of him.
Well, he had helpers. Butta La Mancha's brother was also grooming him for him. So I walked in the other day and they're like licking each other, and I'm like, oh dear. So like,
everybody's gonna have some greasy stool there for a minute.
It's olive oil; it'll be fine. Shiny fur, so they'll be okay.
Yep, they'll have pretty shiny fur.
Well, they're just chill. Those boys are funny.
He's like, dude, why do you taste so good?
He's sweet. I wish I could find them both pet homes. They're very sweet.
I can see that now. He's like, dude, why do you taste so good? I'm just sitting here to lick you all day.
Yum, 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 yum. They're so cute. I like that one. I should probably name... I shouldn't, but I probably should name him. This number 3 in that litter is the only buck. He was the only boy of 7 with 8 sisters. Or 6 or 8 sisters. And it's the only boy. But he's really friendly too. He's the first one that's gonna come pop his head out when you're doing feeding time, and he always wants his ears scratched. So he's very sweet.
Oh, he's a sweetheart.
Yeah. So it's like, I really shouldn't keep you.
But
so
you wanna.
You wanna keep all of them. So it's like, you
I
can't.
know, and that's the problem with rabbit math. And that was the problem with these people in this thing. They're like, oh, they're gonna get killed. Oh my god, dude, you need to let go.
They're not all...
It's easy. Yeah, you need to let go.
It is unfortunate.
Sometimes it is better for them.
It's
Yeah,
and there is plenty.
They're gonna have a better life. Yeah.
There was plenty of them I would have loved to have kept a little bit longer. Like the Folgers found a home, but then the other brothers didn't. So they were in the freezer. But they were very comfortable up until the day that they died. So. But,
Yeah. And that's just it. I mean, you can't give them all perfect homes.
Mm-hmm.
And they do have a purpose. And it is better for them in the long run rather than keeping them and just crowding them further and further together to, make those kind of decisions that you have to make and, make their life have a purpose.
Yeah.
And that purpose is to feed people and clothe people, and
they're going to make a very pretty blanket.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So, and
yeah.
I was actually going through the feet tonight for the keychains. So I have one that's definitely going to be a fairy hand. I do have some slippage, and then I think I pulled out the first 5 or 6 that looked like they came out okay. So I put them back in the salt because I want to make sure they're really dry. So I let them go back, sit in the salt for a little bit. But then I have another, I think it's probably 50-50 on the feet. So if I get 15 or 20 good feet, then, at least now I know for next time, do a different concentration and let them sit a little longer.
Yeah, do a stronger... Next time I would do a stronger concentration on them.
Yeah.
Definitely. With the feet, I mean, at least with the feet, if you have slippage, you can do fairy feet.
Yeah, which is what I'm.
Hands.
Yeah, which is one of them definitely is. Like it's creepy looking. It's gonna be great for Halloween if it dries a little bit faster. Which I should probably just stick in the oven at 200 for like 3 hours and just dry it out real quick. But.
Well, yeah, if they're to the point where they're dried out in the salt, just chuck them in a low oven and let them mummify the rest of the way with the salt. Don't shake the salt off of them. Just throw them in there with the salt on them, and
okay.
So that also reduces the chances of them catching fire.
That's true.
So don't shake the salt off them. Just throw them on a baking.
I bought 50 pounds of salt, so I'll just take the whole 50 pounds of salt and just salt crust them like you do with the fish. Do a salt bake.
Yeah, you can do that. Or leave the salt on them, throw them on a baking sheet, put them in the oven at 175, 200, and just let them go for an hour, and that should dry them out the rest of the way.
All right. But next time I get my house to myself. That's gonna be
Yep.
good. Yeah.
Because they'll look at you weird when you're in there and you're like, what are you doing? I'm mummifying rabbit feet.
I'm making keychains.
I could do this to you.
I can. Again. I like the dead things. Yeah, the dead things. See the
Hold on.
She was a good girl. These are both good girls. Actually, I had this rigged with LED lights, so the eyes lit up on both sides, and it's got. So I actually last Halloween I had that lit up with the rigged with all the LEDs, and I had my full costume, and this one actually came with me. So this was Darling was an accessory.
Your ship.
Yeah.
The ship.
Yeah. So this is River.
Creepy is my thing, though. I love creepy.
And that's River. I haven't set her skull up yet. She was a good girl. This is so sad, though. I do like.
She'd be cool. You could paint her skull.
I did like.
Her skull. She'd be cool.
I want to. I also want to see how if those rabbit skulls are clean, because I wanted to pull them all out and paint all.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had a ton of those. But yeah. So I did like CPR. I tried to save her. I really did. But we had gotten hit with a really wet summer a couple summers ago, and the barber pole worm was bad, and they got hit with barber pole, and they just went to like anemic bottle jaw like overnight, and we just lost. We lost like yeah. But I'm a very big sheep herd, but So good.
So fiddly Foo, I would recommend going to an antique store and finding an antique meat grinder, and getting it cleaned up and using that one, because there is nothing that beats those old-fashioned hand crank meat grinders that you crank onto the side of the counter. You know, stick them onto the side of the counter and then use those. They will chew up anything.
Bedford's got a ton of
those. Those are the best.
How far are you from like Scottsburg, Indiana? I think she might be coming from further north. Because we're thinking about going out to the antique mall again this weekend. I'm pretty sure I saw some of those there. It's like an hour and a half drive.
Those are the absolute best. Even for they're solid iron. They're made out of solid iron, so as long as the bones are fresh and they're flexible, you know, they're still wet and fresh instead of dried, they should crush up just fine in that meat grinder.
I gotta go check no one has had babies yet.
No beans?
No beans. They're all being very stubborn. I'm convinced that Tia Beanie is pregnant because she just looks way too uncomfortable not to be. But no beans yet.
It didn't look like Maya was.
I'm not sure if she is. If she does, she has a
slim.
If she's pregnant, it's a very small
litter. It's an invisible litter. It's very small. I don't see her belly showing no babies.
No. And but I don't know. It was still that they were bred beginning of September roughly, and it was still hot. So we'll see. I mean, the Bucks were willing. I just don't know if they had any.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see who took.
Rita was digging when last time I went out there.
Yeah, Maya's got that Dolly Parton do that going on, you know.
That's Fred's daughter. She's like 6 or 7 months old, I think. Yeah, and maybe.
Yeah, she got that
8 maybe.
Dewlap going on.
But even for an 8-month-old, even for 8, that's a huge. But some of my older breeder does don't even have that much dewlap. She's just. I don't think she's fat either. I mean, she looks like she's in pretty good condition. She's not like heavy.
I mean, when she gets up and walks, you can see her belly's clean. I mean, she's in good shape.
Yeah, so she just, we'll see if she didn't take this time. Then I'm gonna probably wait for the weekend because then it'll be a couple days. It'll be close to 40, and when it's a little bit closer to 40, if they haven't had babies yet by Saturday.
Yeah. She's a maiden doe, so
they're just
they don't always
tight.
take on their first male.
Yeah. No, it's the second time. That's her second attempt anyway. But it was so hot. Her first attempt, she was probably 6 months, and her second attempt, she's probably closer to 7.5, 8 months. So, but it doesn't. But it was so hot. It was like 100 degrees this summer, and they don't like that. It's not something they like. So we're gonna hold on. I'll look real quick when they're all supposed to be due. I'm gonna do breeding, matings, mated. Okay, so they were mated. Today's the 12th. So we're still in the window. They're due between, they were mated 11th and the 12th, so they could, 13th, 14th. I think we got day 31 last time.
Yeah, because 33 days is what's been your average here lately.
Well, they've been longer than they probably should be, but yeah, we've been... stop. Go there.
Yeah, 33 days has been your average here lately.
Yeah, they've been going a little bit longer. They used to be 30 days, 31 days on clockwork. So, but I'll go check them before bed, and I'll let you know. Rita was digging. She's probably due today. She was digging in the nest box. I don't know if she's gonna know what she's doing, so I gotta go watch her.
Oh, Miss Bitch Face McGee.
Yeah, my of course it's the one that I really don't care is bred or not because I'm planning on selling her anyway because she's just. I'd say they're so pretty, but they're just not. Their type's not good enough. I have a list this time of who's going. We were keeping Aretha. I don't think I'm replacing her with anyone anyway.
Yeah, we were gonna keep Aretha and get rid of Rita because Rita's bitch face McGee. So.
but I think I was gonna get rid of Dutch too. So I think Dutch is gonna be an open pen.
Well, his problem was his color wasn't.
No, his
color just wasn't right.
Well, Dutch is that's this one. So his color isn't gonna be right anyway because he's a chestnut. But I was kind of holding him for just type wise, but I don't know. He's thick like his dad though.
I mean, he'd make somebody a good meat mutt buck.
Oh yeah, no, he'd be an excellent meat breeder because he's pretty thick. You know, he's not, like I said, he's solid rabbit. But it's really not. I'm kind of. All right, good night, Fiddly. I'm trying to go in a different direction, I think, than with these. So
yeah, I think that you've been focusing a lot more on your type and improving your conformation.
And
I mean, he's beautiful and round. He has a good depth. He's a little undercut on the rear end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just generally he's got really good type, but for a commercial rabbit only, he's not really kind of doing what he needs to do for what you're trying to accomplish right now.
Yeah, and then Princess. I think I was gonna probably let Princess go too. I need to bring her out and get actually proper pictures of her. I mean, she's had some very pretty baby. That was a return. That was the guy that didn't understand that New Zealand types aren't Flemish giants.
Compact. Yeah. Oh, aren't Flemish giants. Okay.
He was expecting her, and I think she's at the time last time she weighed 8 pounds 13 ounces. At, let's see, how old was she? So she was born 11. So that was like 6 months, and she's probably 8.5, 9 now. But she's a Harlequin mix. So that's actually Marion's her mom, who Fiddly has Marion now, and Oreo is her dad. And that was just kind of a experimental breeding, and he took them for meat breeders, her and Aretha, and he's like, they're too small. And I'm like, well, okay, well, because I was thinking he's going, they're too small, they're going to be like 6 pounds or something at like 4 months or whatever. He returned them 4 or 5 months old. And I'm like, all right, and they were like 8 pounds at like 5-6 months, and I'm like, that's a decent size for what they are. And his thing, and they were solid too. They were like very solid, and he's just like, their ears are too short, and they don't have their bone structure's too fine. And I'm like, New Zealand's breed standard and Harlequin.
Yeah, they're not Flemish Giants. They're going to be giant, thick bone rabbits.
They're not supposed to.
Fine bone commercial rabbits.
Yeah, they're not supposed. They're supposed to be meaty. They're supposed to be solid, but they're not supposed to have. They're not supposed to have thick. They're supposed to be that type of bone structure, because that your weight goes into the bone, not the meat. So I don't know. I'm gonna see. I should probably go check in on him shortly, because I traded out 2 of the purebred New Zealands for them, because I'm like, okay, well, these are purebreds, if that's what you.
Yeah.
Like. But I'm like, fine. I'm like, all right, fine. If that doesn't work out, just bring them back. I'll take them back with you. I'm like, we'll try this, because I'm not doing it a third time. Like that's.
Yep, because like according to the propaganda film we just watched, breeders never take back their rabbits.
He won't be. Well, the thing is, he won't be getting any more rabbits off me a third. I will. If he really wants me to, I will pay. I will buy them back if I have to. But but he's not going to be getting any more, because he doesn't understand what he's doing. So if
he doesn't understand what he's looking for.
Yeah, and then we have like
You get past a point with rabbits where you're going beyond the commercial aspect, and you're approaching, a waste of your meat and expense for skin and bone.
I think Masato's up, depending if she has kits or not, because I mean, I read her to T-Pain. It'd be nice if there was little solid black babies, but I don't know.
I know. It wouldn't that be nice if you just threw us a whole parcel of black kittens?
It would be really nice if they were actually black. But remember, we were thinking that she's actually ES non-extension, because apparently
ES non-extension.
Because it can either be double steel will present black, or ES non-extension will present black. So which means if she's good enough type, technically she's a red. And Eddie's white, by the way, too.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. He carries white, so she would then.
He carries white.
He carries white. He's full color and white. So I could actually breed him.
Oh, dang.
I could technically breed him into the magpie line without having to worry about it. So I was thinking about that, going, no, Eddie would be a really good choice to breed those two magpies to, because he's got the depth.
Who is Eddie bred to this round?
Eddie is bred to Oscar, Princess Diana, Maya, and I think those are his. Yeah, so Maya, Princess Diana, Oscar. These are Eddie's. So Oscar's a red, and she's just like Ritz. She doesn't. There shall be no hay in her bucket. Every time I've tried to give her some, she has dug it out and been like, no. Clean. No, clean bucket. So I gotta go check on her and make sure she knows.
Clean. It must be clean. It must be clean. Everything must be clean.
Ritz did the same thing. Anytime you try to give her hay to pack in for her litter, she would just like, no! And she wouldn't sit in the bucket either. She would sit next to the bucket, but there shall be no hay in my bucket. No hay. Until she's ready to have the babies, and then she'd build a nest. But otherwise, no. There shall be nothing in my bucket. My bucket must be perfect, because, they can't stand sitting on the wire.
Oh, man. I had a doe like that. Her name was, she was one of my dwarf photos. And, what was her name? Patsy Klein. So Patsy, she would, I would put the, set up, because I used the rectangular metal nest boxes, and I would put the nest box in there, and I would put hay and everything in it, and I would get her ready to go, and Patsy would go in there, take every scrap, I'm talking not even a blade was left in this nest box, and she would get in there and clean it completely out, and then right before she decided to drop her litter, she'd take it little mouthfuls and go in there and pack it herself.
Yeah, that's what Ritz would do.
Dang doe would make a perfectly circular nest, like almost like she had braided the hay, and it would be a perfectly circular nest, and then she would have the perfect amount of fur in the middle of it. I'm like, oh my God, you're OCD for a rabbit.
Sometimes that happens. I'm a little concerned. I think they're also like mad at me because I couldn't get any soft hay. Like I went to Standish because I don't have my damn truck, so I couldn't get usually I get 5 or 6 bales, and kind of pick and choose. So they bring me out the one bale we could shove in the trunk of Kranz's car. He has a Hyundai. It's a sedan, so we had to put the hay in the trunk, and it's like first cut alfalfa or something. It's like super stemmy, and I'm like, oh, the sheep are gonna love this, but the rabbits are gonna be pissed. So they're not happy with me right now because I don't have anything else, and I might get my truck back tomorrow. If I do, and I talked to Lee. So I'm like, any chance you can maybe run me over some hay? And he threw his damn back out. So I'm like, don't worry about it. We will make do. I don't want you hurting yourself. So.
Yeah, I was trying to get. I've got a box of second cut and a box of first cut, and I was gonna send it to you, and I'm like, oh, and I think I've got some third cut for you too. But I went to go get the paper, and I forgot the brown paper to wrap it up at Walmart. I had walked out, and I'm like, damn. And then I've had to work the last 2 days, so I haven't had a chance to go get the wrapping paper to get it shipped. And I'm like, dang it.
That's okay.
So I'm probably tomorrow, I'm probably going to go grab the wrapping paper so that way I can wrap up that hay and get it shipped tomorrow.
So
that way you can have some.
Oh, they're so mad at me right now. The sheep aren't. The sheep are like, yay, alfalfa. But
the sheep are gonna love that first cut because it's just chock full of seed heads.
Oh,
let me
good.
tell you.
Oh well, they're not getting it till they get sheared then, because I really didn't want to give them any of the. So I don't have I don't have a wreath.
This is all Timothy.
Mm-hmm.
It's all Timothy, so it's still it's still really soft, but yeah, it's chock full of seed heads, and I'm like, oh man, the sheep are gonna go crazy for that first cut.
So, I don't have updated pictures of Aretha on my software yet, but look, I have baby pictures of Aretha.
Oh my god, she's so cute. Look at the little nerfer.
Adorable. So.
Oh, the cheekies. You just want to grab the little cheekies and stick them.
She's so adorable. They're all cute. Oh, that was another Marion baby. Yeah, it's a Marion baby.
Oh, she looked like she's about to get pissed off and popcorn.
Boop. They're so cute when they're little, though.
So cute when they're babies.
Who else do I
Those
have?
little red chunkers. Oh my god, I wanted to snuggle them so bad.
I think I'm gonna keep that entire litter. I'm looking at all of them, going, you guys are adorable. These guys are so cute. Yeah, so cute.
Yeah, those red chonkers from your most recent litter. Oh my god, I freaking love them. They are so cute.
We have pictures of them somewhere. But yeah, alright, I should probably wrap this up. Because we're getting late.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and post this.
Yeah, my husband's fixing me.
Yeah.
So.
I'm gonna go ahead and post this up on my YouTube as soon as it processes, so that'll be up, available for rewatch later. But yeah, so as far as a play-by-play of the propaganda film. But yeah.
Of the propaganda film, the thinly disguised propaganda film.
So stupid. All right, well, I'll talk to you in a little bit. I'm gonna close this up. So.